Привет, everyone. Welcome to our season 2 of Late Nights with Lenin. Are we even online? Where are we online?
We are online. I can see
Awesome. We are online on at least YouTube, right?
on at least YouTube, yes.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that I was supposed to be kind of online on TikTok. I'll figure this out. I'll kind of be online on TikTok somehow magically. How do I do that? Just one more minute of patience. I had a really bad day today. How do I go online on TikTok? I'll just go live and then TikTokers get whatever TikTok. What do I do?
I don't know. Got to be in your YouTube. Can you share the YouTube?
Okay. I have an event. I don't know how to. Live event. Okay. Go live. Hi TikTok. Okay, hi TikTokers. This is not a Q&A. This is Late Nights with Lenin, and I haven't figured out how to like go all the way live. So you're just are gonna get half of like the experience. But I'm so sorry. One day I will figure out how to do all this.
We'll figure it out for next week.
Yeah. But in the meanwhile, you'll only have half of the experience, and I'm sorry. C'est la vie. So I hope you can still see me and hear me, TikTokers. Okay, good. Hi, TikTokers. Okay. So originally I was not supposed to come on till after the recorded part where Janet and I talk about. Okay, boomers, put your hands in your ears and sing la 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 la. Okay. Where Janet and I talk about dialectical and historical materialism, written by J.B. Stalin. And boomers, remove your hands from your ears by Yusuf Vasirovich Jigishvili, the Georgian saint.
Yes.
He's a very good Christian.
He is.
He received sainthood after his death from the Church of Georgia.
So why did you want to come on, though?
Well, okay. So we all know that Jacobin is not my favorite magazine on earth, since we've written like at least 2 pieces talking about how much they suck. Like on historically.substack.com, we wrote about beware of the respectable left because they were talking about the Polish coup without mentioning the National Endowment for Democracy, Solidarność, and how the U.S. government, and then the anti-Semitism with the Catholic priests, and all sorts of things. That's kind of, and then they wrote this article about the Hungarian Revolution attempt. At least look at the declassified CIA documents. You don't have to like declassify it yourself because I did that for them. So why couldn't they look at these declassified CIA documents where the CIA said, "Oh, these Hungarian rebels are what? They were everything." Like they also fought on Hitler's side. The most important thing, definition of a Yahtzee. See, that's the thing about TikTok is that you can get banned for using that word.
Yeah.
But on YouTube, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, yeah. And then they've written 100,000 articles about why Kautsky was right. And, I mean, if you follow Kautsky's example, So you get the Weimar Republic, followed by the Third Reich, followed by another World War, and Kautsky's wrong.
Do you want to go look at the?
Yeah, so this guy, oh, okay, wait, let me tell you about Eric Blanc. Let me tell you about my previous experience where I was like, if only somebody had written a book about what is to be done in regards to revolutions. Like, I quote tweeted that, and he seriously did not get that reference, even though he was talking about Kautsky. And the thing that makes him weaselly is that the thing that is very weaselly about that is that there is no bloody way anyone knows who Kautsky is unless you know who Lenin is. Because Lenin, the only reason I know who Kautsky is because of all the books that Lenin wrote about how much he hates Kautsky. Otherwise, none of us would know about Kautsky. So in order to support Kautsky, you either have to be like extra trolly, which he's not. He seemed genuinely clueless. And now let's not mention his talking about successful social. Okay, I'm gonna get really mad. Where are the reactions? So you guys feel free to add reactions to how mad I get. And please super chat because I need the money. I always need the money. And then like the more we get, the more programs we have. We can maybe get like Matt to do something every day, or like what else can we do? Like that would be fun to have like a solo Matt spot where Matt rants. Or like we could have more documentarians come on. I'm excited for this Sunday's documentary. It's very chilling.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. There's the possibilities aren't endless.
Yeah.
But that can't happen without the super chats.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And if you're on TikTok, I haven't figured out how to make it like, oh, my recovery is going okay. My nose hurts when my niece was like doing my makeup. So I was like, ouch, 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 ouch. And then, inshallah, hopefully they'll do the surgery. And I forgot what the question. This was.
I got to see Asha and hear her makeup. Her two little nieces working on her. It was
yeah, my niece does. My 10-year-old niece does a better job than me on my makeup.
Yeah, she doesn't. She doesn't like when you do your makeup.
Yeah, my niece is like always like, oh my god, you're wearing pink eyeshadow with purple blush. I'm like, is that bad? I'm like, yeah, but my niece has the advantage of watching all these TikTok videos, makeup videos that I don't watch.
So yeah.
But my niece does not know who Karl Kautsky is.
Which is probably good.
Yet.
Yeah. She doesn't need to know who he is right now.
Yet.
So you wanna look at the thread? You wanna go through that?
Okay, but we'll have to go through it calmly.
Okay.
I have my whiteboard ready for when he so whiteboards are the best for
I'm going to read the tweets to you.
One at a time.
New comment. Ready?
Okay, read.
One of the things I show in my new book, based on 10 years of archival research in 8 languages, is that both Marxist-Leninism and Trotskyism are based in myths and falsehoods about Bolshevism as well as the Russian Revolution. 1 out of 12.
Okay, hold on. What are the 8 languages that he did alleged archival research on? And who does archival? Like, this one's really getting to me because what is the archival research? Like, when did he go to Azerbaijan to do archival research in like there are some, not everything is digitized. It's like a big mess. And even in Russia, it's a big mess. So where did he go? What is this archival research? I better be more than Googling. I asked him the question in Russian to see at least if he speaks Russian. I mean, I don't expect him to speak Azeri or what other. There's Kyrgyz, Kazakh, Ukrainian, Lithuanian. One. If you can speak one of the 197 languages recognized by the Russian Federation, I'll be all happy.
All right, let's go to the next one. If you look at Tsarist Empire at the whole, rather than just Central Russia, it's impossible to hold to the theory that the Bolsheviks pre-1918 broke from the strategy of orthodox Second International Marxism, aka revolutionary social democracy or Kautskyism.
Oh my God! Okay, no. Oh, okay. The Bolsheviks did not. Okay, what happened is that there was a conference in Bern, Switzerland, where all the back then, the communist parties were called the Revolutionary Social Democratic Parties because you had the democracy part and the socialism part. So they all came together in 1912 into a conference room in Bern, Switzerland. And in that, they decided on a couple of things known as the Basil Accords. So let's just read the text of the Basil Accords. The Manifesto says that the Basil Manifesto says that war will create an economic and political crisis. The workers will regard their participation in such a war as criminal, any shooting each other down for the profit of capitalists, for the sake of dynastic honor or of secret diplomatic treaties. That's part 2. Part 3. It is the duty of socialists to take advantage of this crisis and the workers' temper as to rouse the people and hasten the downfall of capitalism. 4. All governments, without an exception, can start a war only at their own peril. 5. Governments are afraid of a proletarian revolution. 6. Governments should remember all these things, and these are all perfectly clear ideas that they do not guarantee a revolution, but what they okay. So basically, what they say is the ending slogan is that no social democrat. Okay, wait. When it is impossible, rule without change, no social democratic party will participate in this war of imperial plunder, and it is the duty of every revolutionary social democratic party to turn this war of imperial conquest to a civil war. So the only party that kept with the Basil Manifesto is the Russian Social Democratic Party, and everyone else betrayed them. The German Social Democratic Party fought. No, they voted for war credits. And I don't know what the British did, but I'm sure they did something same. But the German Social Democratic Party enabling the war, that really hurt Lenin's feelings a lot, because I don't think he stopped writing about it for his entire life. So there is no such thing as Kautskyism, and what they call Marxism, Leninism now, back then was called revolution. Even Lenin called it revolutionary social democracy, and that was the name of the party, the Russian the Russian Social Democratic and Labor Party, the German Social Democratic Party, blah 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 blah. So he seems to not understand. What does he not understand? Okay, he doesn't understand. Okay, so it is impossible to hold that the Bolsheviks did not break from the Second International. It was only white people that did. No one holds the theory that the Bolsheviks broke from it. They're the only ones who followed it. Sorry.
All right. All revolutionary social democrats in Imperial Russia, from Latvia to Ukraine to Poland to Lenin and the Bolsheviks in Central Russia, were attempting to implement Kautsky's strategy in an autocratic context. The Bolsheviks really weren't that exceptional.
Okay, here he does not seem to understand who the Bolsheviks are. Okay, so the Bolsheviks are members of the All Russia Social Democratic and Labor Party. There was another group of people called the Mensheviks who way back in 1902 decided to split from the Bolsheviks, and you are missing everything that's going on YouTube, because I haven't figured out how to do the YouTube thing, you TikToker. I don't know what to say. So he doesn't know who the Bolsheviks are. So this is okay. So this is the my handwriting has improved a lot. Let me show you my new and improved handwriting. Okay.
It was practicing all that Russian.
Yeah. Okay, but it has translated over to English too. Russian Social Democratic Labor Party. This is the party of Lenin. And so inside this party, there were people who thought that for the revolution to happen, you need proletarians plus peasants. And then there was another group of people who didn't really want a revolution and who thought that you need the proletarians to align with the liberal bourgeoisie to get rid of the Tsar. Is this clear at all?
It's backwards.
How do I unbackwards it?
I think you gotta mirror yourself or something for the camera. So I don't know if yep, there you go. All right.
Is it okay? You see?
Yes.
Okay, so these people who want to align with the liberal bourgeoisie to first get rid of the Tsar and then see if it's possible, revolution, those were the Mensheviks. These people who wanted the only formula that's ever been successful in revolution, urban proletariat and rural peasantry, these are the Bolsheviks. So he doesn't even know who the Bolsheviks are, from what I gather. Okay. How do you write a book about the Russian Revolution when you're kind of not really clear about who the Bolsheviks are?
I don't know.
Okay.
All right. So in Finland, a region of Imperial Russia with much more political freedom, the Finnish SDs in 1917 to 18 showed how Kautsky's strategy could guide workers to build a majoritarian socialist movement capable of seizing of power in the parliamentary context.
That's not what happened in Finland. What happened is that we even read this piece with Rania last year, but I will bring it up. It's in How the Bourgeoisie Utilizes Renegades.
Yeah.
Okay, I found it. So let me just read what happened. There was this czarist dude, Baron Mannerheim. He was in the this happened in 1918 and 19. Okay, give or take a year. Okay, so the White Guard government of Finland under the dictatorship of General Mannerheim appears that the German troops aided the White Guards in crushing the Socialist Republic of Finland, and at present the government of Finland, on coming onto power, executed in cold blood within a few days 16,700 members of the old Socialist Republic, imprisoned in starvation camps more than 70,000 people, and then another 40,000 were sold basically as slaves, if you're wondering why there are so many Finns in Minnesota. And after killing, imprisoning nearly 90,000 socialists, and driving 50 more thousand over the border, and enslaving and selling like another 30,000 to slavery, the Finland is a small country with an electorate of only about 400,000, and the White Guard government deemed it sufficiently safe to hold elections. In spite of all these precautions, a majority of the socialists were elected, and the Allies and General Mannerheim allowed not one of them to be seated. And there was just more murder. Okay, so about this successful Finnish social democracy building a majoritarian movement capable of seizing power in parliamentary context, it seems like did not happen.
Okay, so effective left strategy is always context specific.
Okay, but I don't think having 90,000 people die is an effective left strategy, and having some sold into slavery. What else did they do? Some really other disgusting things that's just gross.
The foundational myth in strategic era of Leninism was to assume that the Russian Revolution demonstrated the viability of a new socialist strategy relevant for capitalist democracies.
What is a capitalist democracy? That is what do you call that's like a logical error. You cannot have democracy and capitalism at the same time, because as soon as the will of the people decide to override capital, capital comes in and smashes the will of the people. And we've seen that happen in America. Fracking bans, minimum wage, Ohio comes to mind. I'm sure there's something else that's like happened more recently, but those are the two that just have strongly come to mind. So what the hell is a capitalist democracy?
I have no clue.
Okay, but does he mean capitalist imperial powers?
I mean, he has to. I mean, he
means imperialist.
I think the U.S. is a capitalist democracy. Is probably what he's.
Okay, so he means like UK, US imperial powers, France. Yeah, Lenin never said that. In fact, towards the end of his life, he doubted whether there'll ever be a revolution, whether the imperial proletariat were capable of having a revolution. Actually, towards the end of his life, he's like, he was like kind of saddened by how little class consciousness and solidarity that they had towards the third world.
Yeah.
But guess where? Hold on. Guess where Lenin's strategy worked? China, Vietnam, Bolivia, Venezuela, Cuba, Laos. So, and then can you just bring up quickly the path which led Ho Chi Minh to Lenin?
Yeah.
Basically, it's Lenin was not a racist piece of you know who.
Why is that only showing part of it? Hold on. Let me.
Okay, if not, just share it there.
Nope. Let me just. I'm gonna have to redo my screen because it was because I did something to it before.
I haven't gotten. Oh, I got an. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I had gotten so many. Thank you, Diana Troy of Termisia. Thank you, John. Thank you, Nate. Okay,
Is that looking all right? Okay.
I am me. The other person is Janet. She's our producer.
Hi. Yeah. I am Janet. Do you want to read this, or what do you want to do?
I'll quickly read it. So, okay. So, we don't have to. Okay. As for me, the reason for chapter 3, I loved and admired because he was a great patriot who liberated his compatriot. Until then, I had read none of his books. The reason for me joining the French was that showed sympathy towards me and the struggle of the oppressed. Let's just share it for everyone to read it. But basically, what you'll realize is that in the third world countries, Lenin was like, yeah, we want equality. We want, yeah. And he was not racist, basically, unlike other social democratic parties who are like, oh, but our labor bourgeoisie, but our labor aristocratic imperial plundering.
Okay, I think I shared it in.
Perfect.
In there.
Thank you, parasocialite.
Okay, are we gonna? Do you want to go through more of his?
Yeah, we're gonna go through the whole thing.
Yay. All right.
Unless you think I'm gonna pop a blood vessel.
I don't know. You might.
Okay.
All right. So anyhow,
we're at trying to use Lenin's
state and revolution to guide strategy in a capitalist democracy. That's that capitalist democracy again. Makes ever-reaching socialism far less likely, not more likely.
Has he read State and Democracy? I can bet you $100 he has not read this book.
He might have looked at it because he got the name Kotsky from it.
Yes. Okay.
The same holds true for attempts to build Leninist parties.
Okay, hold on. Marxist Lenin, you can build Marxist Leninist parties anywhere in the world. What the hell is he talking about? Okay, let me just read State and what Revolution. He has not read State and Revolution. That is not where you learn about what is to be done. There's another book that you should probably read if you're trying to achieve socialism. Janet, am I giving good enough hints?
I think so.
Yeah. What is to be done is the book.
What is to be done?
Yes. What is to be done?
Okay, I think I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Where does he begin his Kautsky trolling? Okay. Okay. So he says that Kautskyism, that they're distortion by Kautskyism. Okay. I like. Is this the one where he says that Kautsky's like calls him a goat?
Oh.
No, that's the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just say systematically imbuing them. Okay. Okay. So basically, chapter 1's about how Kautsky's wrong. Okay. What's chapter 2 about? Oh, how Kautsky is wrong. Okay.
More
This is repeated by all opportunist social chauvinists and Kautskyites. The conclusion is the chief and fundamental point in Marxist theory of the state, and it is precisely this fundamental point which has been completely ignored by the dominant official social democratic parties and distorted by the foremost theoretician of the Second International, Karl Kautsky. Kautskyiite opportunism is prevailing everywhere. The ex-Marxist Karl Kautsky fits in perfectly with Marxist characterization of the bourgeoisie position quoted above. Okay. Basically, if you read through this, you'll see that you'll learn why Kautsky is wrong and why Kautsky's controversies with okay. There is nothing in State and Revolution that teaches you about
capital democracy. This
a guide strategy. There is no guide or strategy. Literally, it is a polemic about how much wrong Kautsky is. And Lenin has a state, and in 1918, they got the Weimar Republic, so it's like, yeah, he's kind of brag. He's like, it's a little bit of a troll, a little bit of a humble brag.
Yeah. All right, socialists today should stop copying and pasting Leninist formulas that are only relevant for autocratic contexts.
Shut the bleep up, white boy.
Learning
is what I have to say. Shut up, white boy. Because, like I said, the only places that are under the axe of imperialism are places where you, white boy, won't be going or have never been. So shut up.
Yes. Learning the truth about Second International Marxism doesn't mean we should start copying Kautsky's strategy.
No, you should not.
There is no Kautsky strategy.
No, Kautsky's strategy was agreeing with the bourgeoisie, agreeing to fight World War I. And World War I is a fight between the robbers in Britain and the robbers in Germany. And the winner gets to decide who gets to loot Turkey of its oil. Very familiar war.
Which is only really suitable for a relatively repressed, low-inclusion parliamentary regime like pre-1918 Germany or Finland.
No. They were both monarchies. There was a Kaiser. Finland was part of Tsarist Russia. What is he talking about?
I don't know. I have no clue. We still need to figure out, in strategy and practice, how to achieve an unprecedented historical feat, overcoming capitalism in a capitalist democracy.
It's not going to happen.
Since there is no such thing as a capitalist democracy.
Exactly. But if he means imperial list state, the strategy is the same as Lenin said. Turn your war of conquest into a civil war. Switch your guns. Yep. So, like, literally all the American soldiers, like, they're the ones who are keeping capitalism alive. All you have to do is you don't have to switch your guns. You just have to, like, drop your guns. And boom.
Some people did it in Ukraine. They were told to kill their own people.
And Ukraine had over like 16,000 defectors in 2015.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you just have to drop your, like in Afghanistan, if a good number of soldiers just drop their guns, they didn't have to shoot at anyone, just drop it. Actually, it ended the Vietnam War with all that fragging.
Yeah.
Okay. Leninism is okay. You don't even know what Leninism is, white dude.
It is not a helpful framework for this task. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, because you don't know what Leninism is. Well, one thing that Lenin can teach you is imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, and he can teach you a lot about imperialism, which you seem to not learn about or not know.
And here's a sale pitch. I hope that Lenin is engaged with my new book,
No.
Revolutionary Social Democracy. I think doing so would oblige non dogmatic comrades in these tendencies to change their views about what it will take to win socialism in the 21st century.
I'd rather listen to Discursos de Hugo Chavez because he did it. He won in the 21st century, but what do we know? We should listen to White Boy.
Happy to discuss or debate the actual experience of the Russian Revolution with any left group out there. Just post a comment below or the fact that the U.S. has the advanced capitalist world's least democratic regime doesn't mean Leninism is viable here. It means we need to dramatically democratize this country's state to make a socialist transformation eventually possible.
What?
I don't know.
It's a word salad. Okay, I'm going to have to use my favorite, now that I know Russian, my favorite Lenin quote. Что это значит только Allah ведает? It means, what does this mean? Only Allah knows.
I don't know. I don't even know what he's talking about.
Okay.
I tried reading it again, and I can't figure it out.
No, okay, can you read this one?
Nor does the U.S.'s unique regime justify a strict Trotskyist
what unique regime?
Which insists that no socialist anywhere should ever take executive office short of a socialist revolution. This would mean abstaining from governance even in, say, Sweden or Chile, or a democratized U.S.
Chile. He picked the worst countries. Okay. Olaf Palme had revolutionary potential in Sweden, and then they went and offed him. But in the US, once you capture the executive office, you can just dissolve everything and create a dictatorship of the proletariat. So, but that's neither here nor there, and it's very irrelevant.
Yeah. Whether the anti-democratic blockages of the U.S. justifies under the current regime something resembling a Trotskyist tactic of strict opposition in a good and useful debate, but this doesn't mean that a Trotskyist strategy is relevant.
No. The Social Democratic Party at the end clapped for Hitler and sang Deutschland, Deutschland über alles. So, no. So he's like, okay.
The big point here is that getting to socialism requires a strategy that fights to democratize and eventually take over all existing states that are non-autocratic.
He means white people. I'm just going to assume that he means all white people states.
Leninism, in contrast, is premised on
No, that was not.
Why can't I say that word? And eventually overthrowing all non-Soviet Council states.
What is he talking about? Okay. So basically he means, I think he means non-autocratic states as in white people. And yeah, all white people need to follow Kautsky's strategy so that you can have another Third Reich. This is meaningless. And he's written a book about this. This is what we call the white man's confidence. No other, I get, for me to have trolled this thread, I picked up 3 different citations from Lenin, Ho Chi Minh, this, and just to make sure I was thinking right. And how can you write a book about the Russian Revolution when you don't bloody know what a Bolshevik is?
I don't know.
Okay, but what is the skill that Eric LeBlanc lacks?
probably speaking 8 languages. No, dialectical materialism.
Yes, dialectical and historical materialism. And so we'll be back after that, if possible. Oh my God, that thread was infuriating.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's just answer. He's like, well, the U.S. became so. Oh yes, that's it. No, I don't know. I don't even know. Yeah, autocratic is when you talk about the bad part of town, or the, I don't know. He doesn't Okay. Yeah, Kautsky. Okay, by the way, Kautsky's wife died in Auschwitz, and he died poor and alone in the Netherlands. Yeah. So being like a messenger for the bourgeoisie, they went and scorpioned him. Like, if you know about the story of the frog and the scorpion.
Yeah.
It's the frog or the fox? I don't know.
It's a frog and a scorpion.
Okay.
He's swimming across. The frog is swimming across the whatever body of water, lake, whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh my God. But this is the kind of shit. Oops. This is the kind of this is the kind of
Stop.
kind of pablum I expect from Jacobin.
Yes.
They recently had a why did they? No. That was Matt. What's his face? Who had like, oh, the leftist case for supporting Azov.
Was that Dust? No, that was.
That was Dust, not Jacobin. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, if you're watching live, I'll put in a poll on which day you like better, and if you're not watching this live, what do we do?
I don't know.
Leave a comment and please give me super chats. I want super chats. You can even thank me. Oh my God, thank you. Somebody sent me a sticker. Oh, Deanna Troy, thank you so much. I don't know what the currency is, but this looks like a lot. Thank you so much. This is really sweet.
All right, so we have so it's the next couple hours is Ash and I pre-recorded this part, so I'm gonna go. Are you ready to go into that?
Yeah.
And then we will try to come back live at the end. At least we will. Yeah.
In theory.
I will let you know if that's not going to happen in the chat. So you guys will know whether we're coming back or not. So enjoy our discussion. Thank
you, Dan. I don't know what currency that is.
All right, it's going on now.
Привет, everyone. Today we are beginning with season 2 of, is it still Late Nights with Lenin?
I don't know. We'll decide when we go through this. We're gonna find a good time. So
okay, it's either Late Nights with Lenin or Afternoons with Lenin or Mornings with Lenin or Dinner with Lenin.
We know that for sure.
Okay, there is Lenin, is what we can say. But when is there Lenin? We cannot say. So this year we're going to do a different format. Last year I was a little bit too idealistic and not dialectical enough. So I thought if I had different cringe YouTubers on, they would read Lenin and be like, oh my God, Lenin's so right. Okay, let me read more Lenin and then stop being so cringe. But unfortunately, since these cringe YouTubers are American, they have not been taught the skill in school, and the skill is?
Dialectical materialism.
Exactly. So one session with the cringe YouTuber is not going to transfer them from a cringe YouTuber to a non-cringe YouTuber, is what we discovered the first season.
Yes. So we're just going to be doing, and I like the idea. We're gonna kind of. I know that we're kind of talking right now that we're going to do the reading up front.
So the idea is that Janet has not read any Lenin besides what we read last year. So she's like a newbie, and she's an anarchist.
Well,
for now.
Not the anarchist you guys know online.
Well, like I said, she is an anarchist for now. And the hope is we change that in the future.
Okay. You know what my stance is that
I understand. I'm just kidding.
I do believe going through, like, I do believe in communism. I do believe that you can't just jump into what this
empire to anarchy
to that. And
unless you have a disaster event.
My liking of anarchism comes more from just like how I feel like I don't want anyone telling me what to do. So I know that's my ideal. So I know, like, I'm not going to jump into my ideal. Like, I know that there's got to be a lot of learning to go through, and we got to, before we can get to, beyond having, armies and, people telling us, this is what you're supposed to do and all that stuff. Like, we need to protect the people.
Exactly.
Once you're under, like, you decide to go towards a more socialism away from capitalism, the people are not going to be protected. And that's what we have the history behind that. We know that. We know that they're not going to be protected. So we know that there has to be protections in place until maybe one day.
Yeah.
Everybody can have this ideal thing. But, that's the only reason why I lean towards anarchism, because in the end, like, that would be my idealistic, but I am also a little bit more realistic.
Exactly. So it's like if you're flying a plane, you're going to have to listen to the air traffic controllers when they say, hey, there's another plane in the same altitude about 10,000 feet away. You need to move away from them or else everyone dies. So there are times, just because you have socialism doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. So if you're a pilot, you kind of have to listen to the air traffic controllers.
You're always going to have, like, a doctor. You're not going to know how to doctor yourself, unless you're a doctor. So you're always going to have people that you have to lean on, like, that have more intelligence than you in something.
Well, or not more intelligence, but they're, like, for example, the air traffic controller has more data than you. He may not be smarter than you, but he knows where other planes are. And if you're a pilot, you need to listen to him just to make sure that you don't crash.
By intelligence, I mean just them knowing a certain subject.
At a certain point in their role in the whole thing. And and of course, you can read the 4-page pamphlet by Engels called On Authority. I love it when people show that they have not read it by calling it a book.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot too. They'll go, oh, the book, like, and then, you're like, this isn't a book, or they'll call, like, a paper, like a speech or something in it. And it's like, no,
a paper in this speech, I can kind of see because, but a book and a 4-page article, 4 pages do not include 8 at maximum is not a book.
No, most of these are not books anyways. Unless they do, they push them all together into a whole bunch of
collected work.
Yes. So
I think, I know that this is Late Nights with Lenin, but for the first piece, I would like to do Yusuf Vasirovich's one piece from Yusuf Vasirovich's collected works. Yusuf Vasirovich Jugishvili. This is for the boomers here. So, by the way, this is my idea of making Stalin accessible for boomers. What you need to do is take his collected works take out everywhere where the name Stalin is used, change it to Yusuf Vasirovich Zhugaishvili, and both are true. You can either call him a Georgian philosopher or a Georgian saint. Both of them are true, and then just hand it over to boomers, and they would be like, "Oh my God, so much wisdom!"
Yes.
It's really hilarious. Yeah, but Americans often, when they hear the name Stalin, they're like, and freak out, and they shut their brains down. But I'm hoping our audience has gotten over that reflex.
Yes.
Okay. So the only Lenin also does a great piece, not a piece, but a great book on materialism and what is it? Materialism and empirical-criticism, which is talks about dialectical materialism. Except the one main flaw is that he's spending a lot of time trolling Bogdanovich. The funniest line ever from Lenin is, I'm going to say it in Russian and then I'm going to say it in English, because in English it'll get lost. So he says, "Что это значит? Только Allah ведает," which means, what does this paragraph mean? Only Allah can divine it. I don't know why he uses Allah. Like, and then there are other times where he says, "Только Бог знает," like only God knows what this means. But then for this one, it was so bad that it was like only Allah could figure this out. And so what happens is that people end up losing, what do you call it? Basically, it's not as well explained as Yusuf Vasirovich.
Yeah, but you lose it too in translation. So
well, yeah, but Lenin spends about half the book mocking all these people. And you'll know some of them that he mocks because they're taught as like, oh, this philosopher. He mocks Kant for a while.
Yeah.
Kant, is that his name?
Kant, yeah.
Who's the guy who's like the progenitor for nihilism? I can't. Nietzsche?
Oh, Nietzsche. Yeah.
Nietzsche. Okay, he mocks some well-known philosophers, so
yeah.
It's worth it. But it's not something when you do not have the skill of dialectical and historical materialism for you to do it. And we'll put the link down for you to follow. So, dialectical materialism is the world outlook of the Marxist-Leninist Party. It is called dialectical materialism because its approach to studying the phenomenon of nature, its method of studying and comprehending them is dialectical, while its interpretation of the phenomena of nature, its conception of these phenomena, its theory is materialistic. Oh, I'm pausing after every paragraph for you to if you have a question or a comment or something to say.
No, I mean, so it's basically you want to use dialectical, he's saying you want to use dialectical materialism to kind of understand what's going on around you. I don't know.
Exactly.
So
dialecticalism is the method, and I forgot, is the method, and materialism is, I guess, the substance.
Yes. Okay.
Historical materialism is the extension of the principles of dialectical materialism to the study of social life and application of the principles of dialectical materialism to the phenomenon of the life of society and to the study of society and of its history.
Okay.
When describing their dialectical method, Marx and Engels usually refer to Hegel as the philosopher who formulated the main features of dialectics. This, however, does not mean that the dialectics of Marx and Engels is identical with the dialectics of Hegel. As a matter of fact, Marx and Engels took from the Hegelian dialectics only its rational kernel, casting aside its Hegelian idealistic shell. and developed dialectics further so as to lend it a modern scientific form. Here's a quote from Marx. My dialectic method is not only different from the Hegelian, but it is direct opposite. No. My dialectic method is not only different from the Hegelian, but is the My dialectic method is not only different from the Hegelian, but is its direct opposite. To Hegel, the process of thinking, which under the name of the idea, he even transforms onto an independent subject and is the creator of the real world. So Hegel thinks that ideas make the real world.
Well, I just to stop you there, just as a little note, that is the Hegel part of it was also what you're discussing is the split between anarchism, like Proudhon, and what Marx and Engels wrote too, is because Proudhon used Hegel, but in the sense that doing the opposite, like doing what Stalin's saying, like Hegel did, and then Marx and Engels actually took Hegel and kind of turned it around a little bit to fit the dialectical materialism that they believe in. But the more like
the study of the world as it is.
Yeah.
Not the world as it wish it were or want it to be.
Yeah, where Hegel kind of like the sense that the anarchists went with it was the more idealistic.
Some anarchists went with, or did all of them? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you're going, I'm talking about back then. So
Proudhon went with it.
Yeah, he used a lot of Hegel. Bakunin used Hegel too, but not in the same sense. And that was one of the sticking points against, where Marx and Engels and
Bakunin split. With me this is still quoting Marx. With me, on the contrary, the ideal is nothing else than the material world reflected by the human mind and translated it into forms of thought. So Marx doesn't think ideas are all that important in the beginning. He thinks that the human mind basically interprets what exists into what we call thought. So this table, like it's not like we may be able to improve upon it or whatever, but the first step is recognizing that this is a table made of wood. And that's kind of what Marx wants to begin with in his analysis.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're not quoting Marx anymore, and this is back to Joseph Vasirovich Jigashvili. Yusuf Vasirovich Jigashvili.
The saint.
Yes, the Georgian saint. When describing their materialism, Marx and Engels usually referred to Feuerbach as the philosopher who restored materialism to its rights. This, however, does not mean that the materialism of Marx and Engels is identical with Feuerbach's materialism. As a matter of fact, Marx and Engels took Feuerbach's materialism, its inner kernel, and developed it into a scientific philosophical theory of materialism and cast aside its idealistic and religious ethical encumbrances. We know that Feuerbach, although he was fundamentally a materialist, he objected to the name of materialism. Engels more than once declared that in spite of the materialist foundation, Feuerbach remained bound by the traditional idealist fetters, and that the real idealism of Feuerbach becomes evident as soon as we come to his philosophy of religion and ethics. And actually, Marx and Engels trolled Feuerbach a lot in their book, The German Philosophy.
When was Feuerbach around? Was he around the time of Lenin, or?
No, Marx and Engels trolled Feuerbach.
Oh, you just,
the German Philosophy.
So he was probably before them,
or during them. Ludwig von Feuerbach. Let's see. When was he born? He was born in July 28th, 1804, and died on September 13th, 1872. So it was like around the same time as Marx.
Yeah. So just before, probably just writing right before.
Yeah, it was during, I think they wrote the German philosophy during his lifetime as to troll him.
Yeah. Okay.
Dialectics comes from the Greek word dialego, to discourse, to debate. Okay. In ancient times, dialectics was the art of arriving at a truth by disclosing the contradictions in the arguments of an opponent and overcoming these contradictions. There were philosophers in ancient times who believed that the disclosure of contradiction in thought and the clash of opposite opinions was the best method of arriving at the truth. This dialectical method of thought later extended to the phenomenon of nature and developed into the dialectical method of apprehending nature, which regards the phenomenon of nature as being in constant movement and undergoing constant change, and the development of nature as a result of the development of the contradictions in nature as a result of the interactions of opposed forces in nature.
One thing going back to like, but it's talking about the Greeks or whatever, like with this. So they use dialectic more like I know you cringed at debate, but like I feel like we don't have that a lot now. I feel like back even in Lenin's time that people were willing to do more of a good faith debate in try to get. I mean, I'm not saying that.
I think it depends on who you were debating. But yes, I mean, mathematicians use this as proof all the time.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me go get some paper for this. If you, basically, they'll say something like, if you add two even numbers, the sum will be even because, okay, let's take two, any even number should be, you should be able to write it in a form 2 multiplied by k. And if you add 2 multiplied by k by 2 multiplied by n, you get 2 multiplied by k plus n, which is even. And there's also a proof by contradiction, like assume this is blah, 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 then. And since this is false, Gödel's uncertainty proof, that's like how he shows that there is not like, you cannot solve all problems.
Yeah.
Because it's a proof by contradiction. It's very elegant.
Yeah. And that would be, I guess that would be harder in something like a social thing or
I mean, you can.
Yeah.
You can to a certain extent. But in the imperial core, you're kind of even stopped from analyzing data in that way. Like, I've been trolling somebody on TikTok who has a PhD in political science. And her political science was like how media reacts in authoritarian countries. And then she was looking at how the New York Times covered Libya and how People's Daily covered Libya. And anyways, her thesis has been proved.
Probably should have looked at like India.
No, she also looked at Russia and Venezuela. And I'm like, on what earth is Russia? Okay, check out my Late Nights with Lenin TikTok to see me trolling her. Okay. Anyways, it's just that in the imperial core, they won't let you study social sciences dialectically because you're going to only come into one conclusion. Mm-hmm. Imperialism is bad. We need to stop it. And that's the one conclusion they don't want you to come to.
Yeah.
The Marxist dialectical method. The principal features of Marxist dialectical methods are as follows. A, nature is connected and determined. B, nature is a state of continuous motion and change. C, natural quantitative change leads to qualitative change. D, contradictions are inherent in nature. And those are the first few axioms. Okay, let's discuss each of these axioms in detail. Nature is connected and determined. What does he mean by that? Contrary to metaphysics, which is just like nonsense, dialectics does not regard nature as an accidental agglomeration of things, a phenomenon unconnected with, isolated from, and independent of each other, but as a connected integral whole in which things, phenomenon are organically connected with, dependent upon, and determined by each other. The dialectic method therefore holds that no phenomenon in nature can be understood if taken by itself, isolated from the surrounding phenomenon. Inasmuch as any phenomenon in any realm of nature may become meaningless to us if it is not considered in connection with the surrounding conditions, but divorced from them. And that vice versa. Any phenomenon can be understood and explained if it is considered in its inseparable connection with the surrounding phenomenon as one conditioned by the surrounding phenomenon.
Okay.
So in society, Marx and Engels' basic theory of society, like why were humans living in the wherever people lived before civilization, and then why did they build civilization?
Yeah.
And so they came up with the idea that society revolves around, the main thing that society revolves around, or that the society is constructed around, is food production. So before people had farm, and this is in Marx and Engels' history of society, before people had farming, they had to forage, and it didn't make, and so you were moving a long way and you had to hunt and you were moving far away. And so building a house, which takes like God knows what, it's not useful for you. No. But then when people figured out how to grow their own food, then suddenly you want to build a house right next to where you grow your food, because you want to make sure that no one steals it, and the crops are growing and the animals you're raising for your food are healthy or whatever. And then that's how like you got buildings or indoor housing and society. And then your diet changed. And then when you soon discovered how to use an oxen or a horse or some other draft animal, suddenly you did not need all these people plowing. So you then had but you did need a bunch of people who were making plows, or who were fixing your plows, or who were taking care of the horses. So then you got specialized occupations and so on. And as opposed to why did society form? God said so. God kicked people out of the Eden. I mean, like that's the main difference. And once you even today, society is built around the modes of production, as in how you make stuff.
Exactly.
And some anarchists tried to troll me about me calling modes of production how you make stuff. And I, on Twitter, like I quoted Marx, and he literally said how you make things.
That's just, so that's something that I see too, is a lot. Even like I'm reading Parenti right now, and he brings up the fact that like a lot of them, he calls them, I think he calls them pure socialists. I think he does mention Murray Bookchin being an anarchist, but he uses the pure socialist a lot. He's saying it kind of.
Okay, let me tell you the strange thing about Murray Bookchin is that allegedly Abdul Öcalan was a Stalinist, and then suddenly he goes off to this like Turkish prison, and no one has seen him. He's in an island all by himself, and suddenly he becomes a Bookchin fan, right?
But Bookchin's weird because he went from
neocon.
He was in the Young Communist League in New York, and then he went to anarchism, but then he also dropped anarchism later on for collective. Like he
had some weird theory,
but he wanted his own. Like I think he was more of a
central intelligence asset.
Yeah, but I mean, on that sense, but also like for in it for himself. Like, I feel like he just like from reading what he did and how he moved from one thing to another, it just makes me question a little bit about him.
And also the fact that there's a big chance he was a Central Intelligence Agency asset, but that's another story.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and defend Murray Bookchin, but I mean, like what I was saying is like what
Parenti said.
What Parenti was trying to bring up was the fact that like I think a lot of it happens like an anarchist will sit there and look back in history and say, you know, like David Graeber did this a lot. He was he was an archaeologist, a social so he went and he would look at things and say, okay, these were the anarchist traits in a way. And I mean, in a way, he's not wrong, but if you really looked at it, like if you consider like the communist side of it, because there was always leadership. You know what I mean? Like there was always kind of a hierarchy in any of these
alleged anarchist society, or the society was not very okay. Usually if there wasn't some sort of leadership, a society did not last long. It was like it lasted for like 30 seconds.
Or they jumped, like, I mean, like what they did in France, in the Paris Commune.
That didn't last very long. And then they had a big hearing about it.
They had no planning.
Exactly. And then
they just all jumped and decided to do all the liberal shit. Like, I am a governor. Like, I'm going to call myself a governor now. No, you don't want to do that. You kind of want to like, want to have some kind of plan to go into it. You know what I mean?
Well, they had a big hearing about it in the first international conference in 1872. Like they spent years investigating it. Yeah. And like Marx and Engels and everyone, Bookchin got kicked out of the conference midway. So you can read about what went wrong in the commune in very, very great detail when you look at like on Marxist.org. And basically, they didn't prepare for the counter-revolution and they got swept away, basically, was the end of the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely the difference of saying, okay, I believe in this ideal. And I do believe in an ideal. And I think a lot of people have ideals, like what they would want to see. But what can we do realistically? What makes sense? What makes sense if we take over a city, Paris? Like, it would have made more sense for them to, there was
disarm the bourgeoisie, get rid of them.
Yeah, and there was too many,
wimps.
Yeah, there was just like they weren't ready to go the full way with it, and the ones that were ready to go the full way were not doing it in any planned way. So
useful, yeah. And on the flip side, you're going to see this in the Western bourgeoisie press. Basically. If you hear this whole story, you'll kind of understand what's going on. And they basically, so there is a prejudice. So there's a whole, with any of the revolutions. So people who are wealthy and bourgeoisie in a deeply unequal society, like there has the hegemony that is developed in this deeply unequal society that allows them to not feel guilt and to kind of uphold the system is that I am somehow genetically superior to those peasants. Yeah. And so they have this so it's kind of like asking, so then when you ask these bourgeoisies about the revolution, it's kind of like asking a KKK member what they think of Black people and it's not even kind of, it's identical. And all of those prejudices just pop onto them. Like there is literally a poster from the White Army in the Russian Revolution where like, it's literally like Birth of a Nation like, you know how in Birth of a Nation, they like depict Black people as like being creepy rapists. They do that with the peasants too. And it's like, yeah, no, that's their stereotypes. But then the bourgeoisie press is only taking their perspective. So therefore, literally any kind of a revolution that is successful, or if somebody's a winner, they're always going to be labeled authoritarian. And that doesn't mean you should believe what the Western press says about what is authoritarian and what is not, because every winning revolution is always authoritarian. And the only good revolution is, that's why they like deify Rosa Luxemburg, Salvador Allende, because they lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also the sense that like in the socialist revolutions, you can actually, like socialist communists, you know, like talking about Russia and, you know,
China, Vietnam, whatever.
You talk about authoritative, but they're looking at like, they don't look at the human. They do
look at the human aspect. It's just that they don't consider some people human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, like they don't say, "Oh, wow, like you went from like 20% literacy to 99% literacy." You know what I mean? Like they don't consider that a good thing.
Yeah.
Under capitalism, they don't feel like the fact that the United States has like an 88% literacy rate, and a lot of these countries, including Russia, still has like a 99% literacy rate. And like I saw like on Twitter, I saw like someone tweet out like, "Oh, Russians don't understand because they're dumb and they don't read," or something.
No. They know far better than what, like they know. Can we share this little article? I just kind of read this out because I kind of want to explain. This one I explain using dialectical materialism why authoritarianism is not authoritarian. Well, why you shouldn't believe the word authoritarian.
Let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. Okay. The authoritarian myth. Authoritarian must mean more than the New York Times said so. Today, we examine how the US press uses authoritarian. The Cold War has done many terrible things, but for Americans, a side effect has to be robbing them of the skill necessary to analyze the world. Dialectical materialism is that skill. By extension, benefiting neocons, imperialists who seek to extract resources, spread hunger, misery throughout the world. However, for those living under the axe of the empire, this means they will repeatedly undergo hell. One of the worst embodiments of this tendency is how the word authoritarian triggers unhinged reactions from leftist intellectuals. The host of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, commented about how Cuba was authoritarian, and he said all revolutions devolve into authoritarianism.
So first of all, is Cuba an authoritarian regime? Absolutely. Would I prefer that the people of Cuba have freedom? Absolutely. And actual democracy, which they do not have now. Okay, the Castros have been in charge forever. It's clearly a dictatorship, okay? And all the dreams of communism are honestly nonsense. There was never any communism there. Communism almost always turns into dictatorships, and that's what it turned into here.
If Cenk Uygur, like millions of other Americans who threw around the word authoritarian, examine the facts, even in the most cursory way, he will realize that all these authoritarian countries seem to vastly improve the lives of their respective population. Similarly, earlier this week, I debunked a video of the new breed of leftists on the internet, anarcho-neocons, who proclaim authoritarian. Okay. So then I say, if democracy means a state designed to take the will of the majority as an input and translate it into policy, I got this literally from Lenin. For authoritarianism to be meaningful in any way, it must necessarily denote exercising power contrary to the will of the majority of the people. And if anything, the past 100 years shows that it is very difficult for governments to survive when they're actively against the best interests of the majority of the population. the US government was successfully able to develop a method to subvert the will of the majority through the use of force, and it is known as the Jakarta method, which is the title of Vincent Bevan's excellent book. But we also go into it in this. And as we know, Jakarta method is just killing a lot of people, more or less. In order to appreciate the will in subverting the popular will, the most powerful country in the world had to spend $500 million to fund an army. This is just in Jakarta. Their opponents were malnourished, illiterate peasants making less than $1 a day. Then the US government had to continue funding this government with the $125 million for military equipment every single year until he quote unquote fell. So in order to be authoritarian, i.e. contrary to the will of the majority of the people, you need high-tech weapons and an army of mercenaries to deploy these weapons. For example, Ukraine. And if we look at historical developments of these so-called socialist and communist countries, none of them had what was needed to be authoritarian. Lenin spent most of his life exiled from Russia. He lived in his little apartment. He was chased by he was dogged by the Tsar's Okhrana, and he didn't even he didn't have anything besides his newspaper that he clandestinely smuggled and printed. Mao Zedong was a school teacher and a librarian. He taught people to read, and he secretly stashed Lenin books inside libraries for people to go get it. Kim Il-sung spent 30 years in exile. Enver Hoxha slept in the floor of a tobacco factory. Fidel Castro was living in the Orient, Sierra Madre and Oriente. So if one spends 30 years in exile and somehow manages to coordinate the efforts of millions and sometimes billions of people, the one skill they get is persuading people and forming alliances. And so, so that is why, that's a theoretical reason why you should just be suspicious of it. You should always ask their class nature. Vox tried to do this anti-Stalin piece, and then the lady who was allegedly oppressed by Stalin. Her dad had 2 farms, a mill, and owned part of a forest or something. So yeah.
I mean, it's always
the same story.
Playing the most are the ones that they feel they want to be ahead. That's the whole thing. They want to be better than other people, and their money is what makes them better, and they don't want to give that away. Well,
and the fact that their money is no longer worth anything, and no one listens to them, it feels like oppression, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Uncle Authority. And I'd like to ask you to, for a moment, consider that whenever you see headlines like this, that perhaps it's a little strange when an imperialist news outlet puts such a spotlight on a particular candidate only to highlight that they have apparently no positions beyond I support the system in which I am allowed to participate freely. That seems a little odd to me. And in that same light, a very key point is that in an actual non-democracy, the quote-unquote pro-democracy candidate is called a corpse.
So let's go to we'll go back. So that's kind of, I guess we got into this thing because we were talking about dialectics and how people reject it. Okay. Contrary to metaphysics, dialectics holds that nature is not in a state of rest and immobility and stagnation and immutability. But no, we got it because I was using the dialectical method in explaining how societies form.
Yes, that's where we landed off. So then we were going to go to his second example, I guess.
Exactly. Dialectical method therefore requires that phenomena should not be considered only from the standpoint of their interconnection and their interdependence, But from the standpoint of their movement, their change, their development, they're coming into being and going out of being. I think I did that with the farm example, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Dialectical method regards as important primarily not that which at a given moment seems durable, yet is already beginning to die away, but that which is arising and developing, even though at a given moment it may not appear to be durable. But for the dialectical method, consider invincible only that which is arising and developing. Again, like for the farming, kind of
like how, I mean, you just have to go with the flow.
yeah, like how like farming. Eventually, what happens is that you develop a lot more food through farming, and then suddenly you feed you have a much bigger population in your thing, and basically, people who developed farming and decided to use farming outbred everyone else, and that's kind of how farming rose.
Yeah.
Natural quantitative change leads to qualitative change. This one, a good example, is basically when you see ice and you put a thermometer in it. For a while, the ice gets warmer and warmer, but it still looks like ice. But then at 0 degrees, it suddenly stays at 0 degrees for a long time, and ice starts looking like water.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean ice just went water. It actually just like started getting warmer and warmer, but you didn't notice it until it got to 0 degrees, where it started taking the form of water.
Yes.
And that is exactly the example that Engels uses. But he uses water boiling into whatever, but steam. But
yeah, the steam. Yeah, I remember that. The steam. And
okay. So part 3. Contradictions are inherent in nature. This one's a little hard. Contrary to metaphysics, dialectics holds that internal contradictions are inherent in all things and phenomena of nature. For they have all their positives and negative sides, a past, a future, something dying, something developing, and a struggle between these opposites. The struggle between the old and the new, between that which is dying away and which is being born, which is disappearing and that which is developing, constitutes the internal content of process of development, the internal content of transformation of quantitative changes to qualitative changes. The dialectical method therefore holds that the process of development from the lower to the higher place, not as a harmonious unfolding phenomenon, but as a disclosure of a contradictions of inherent in things and phenomenon as a struggle of opposite tendencies which operate on the basis of these contradictions. In its proper meaning, says Lenin, dialectics is the very study of the contradictions within the very essence of these things.
I feel like what he's saying is something that, like, I believe too, and like you can talk about like the constitutionalists, like
liberals.
It was never made to be one thing and keep one thing. That I like this because it's like he's saying that you kind of have to keep just moving. You have to move with what's going to be best for the people. That you're gonna look at what's going on in the world, and just keep building.
Well, let me give you an example of the liberal thought. Liberals are just purely wrong on this. So what liberals think, Lenin makes super fun of this part, of course. It's my favorite. When he makes makes fun of lesser evilism, it's like hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But liberals think that, actually, let me use a slightly different example about Actually, let's just use the liberals. Okay. So liberals think that if you can get the most people in society to agree on the minutest detail, that's the compromise, and then you go with that. And then you see that nothing changes. But if you remember that within a society, there are classes of people, as in how people earn their living. So if you're a proletarian, and like, if we say, hey, everyone's going to make $1 more an hour every single day, you're going to be like, Yahoo! But Jeff Bezos is going to think, oh my God, I have so many million employees, and if that's like $5 million a day or something like that. And he's not going to be happy that he has to spend $5 million extra a day. So that's where you get the contradiction. And the idea is that there will never be anything meaningful in that little point that you and Jeff Bezos can agree on, which is, I don't know, the earth is round or whatever.
He's looking out for himself, like what's best for him and his ilk, and then the workers are looking what's best for them. And then in that sense, if everyone's getting $1, it actually... It's probably his workers that need the dollar more than, someone making $100,000 a year doesn't need $1 raise. And so
Jeff Bezos is going to lose like maybe $5 million a day,
nothing.
But that's okay. But that is the struggle that you're talking about. Liberals are going to be like, oh, the Republicans said no, and so we can't give you $1 a day. But the thing is that there will always be somebody who's for him, it's like, $5 million a day. Even though $5 million a day is like a penny for him, he's still not is going to be fighting it tooth and nail. And so the idea is not to get the biggest amount of people to agree on the smallest thing, like the earth is round, but rather have a core group of people who are going through the same thing you are and kind of joining hands and pushing forward.
So the people that the opinion of the people that it affects should matter more than
but you're looking at it from the proletarian standpoint.
I'm sorry,
No. I'm not saying you're wrong, but from the proletarian standpoint, you're right.
Yes,
but that's not how the bourgeoisie will never see it that way.
Yeah, they're going to they're going to think that Jeff Bezos, compared to those, say Jeff Bezos has 500,000 employees. Like those 500,000 employees should matter more than Jeff Bezos, but what we do is Jeff Bezos matters more than these 500,000 employees.
Yeah, from the proletarian standpoint, yes, the 500,000 people should matter more. But again, you have to understand that this is indeed the proletarian point of view, and that there's always more than one point of view of the way of looking at things. That's where you get like the class collaborationism and things like that, because you're not like, you have to be explicitly thinking, is this newspaper, whose point of view is this newspaper writing? And whose point of view is this person talking about? And I'm always explicit about whose point of view I'm talking about, from whose point of view. But a lot of people are not explicit, especially in the imperial court, because they don't want you to know whose point of view. So it has to be up to you to fill in the gaps in your head.
Well, they just hear like an opinion piece written by Jeff Bezos. like say
that's definitely not the proletarian point of view.
And then they just see that, he's saying this, so that has to be right because it's in the New York Times and it's an opinion piece. And this person needs to,
Okay, New York Times called Mussolini a new hope. Every time you want to, I always have to say this. Okay. If Mussolini is a new hope, they're wrong. Okay. So that's kind of how, contradictions are inherent in nature. Okay. So let's see. Hold on. Okay. In brief are the principles of Marxist dialectical method. Easy to understand how immensely important it is the extension of the principles of the dialectical method to the study of social life and the history of society, and how immensely important is the applications of these principles to the history of society and to practical activities of the proletariat, up to the parties of the proletariat. So, for example, history of society is very important because, imperialists create random societies all the time and make you think that they're, there is no isolated phenomena in the world. If all the phenomena are interconnected and interdependent, it is clear that in every social system and every social movement in history must be evaluated not from the standpoint of eternal justice or some other preconceived idea, as it is not infrequently done by historians, but from the standpoint of the conditions which gave rise to that system or the social movement and with which are connected. So, yeah, the standpoint of eternal, like that's the most annoying American mythology. America may be bad, but it's moving towards the arc of justice. And just
also like you can think of that on the sense of like say like what they do say about Stalin. Oh, communism killed all these people.
Yes, it did. But these people were Nazis.
The people that communism killed. Like so it's looking beyond just that little quick thing that they're telling you, and understanding that okay, they're saying this to say that communism is bad, and we're not saying that every death under Stalin was right or
but
wrong.
I have yet to find anyone giving me one counter example of a person who was wrongfully killed.
And then I can't do that, right? I don't.
No, you can't.
I don't have the facts on that.
No. I always ask
someone that we
don't know, but I always ask this question when there are like millions of people were okay. So if there are millions, you can come up with one, and I have yet to have somebody answer.
Or the ones they come up with are
always guilty or total Nazis.
Yeah. I mean,
okay. But when they say, when they say communism kills, I will never say it doesn't. I'll say, yes, it did. But I like the fact that it killed Mussolini.
Well, I was saying that, you know what? I was talking to my father the other night, and I was laughing about how you always say like, that you wish he killed more.
Yeah.
Because of who he was killing, that maybe he should have killed more. So
there were 18 million Wehrmacht soldiers alone, and at least 16 million went back home.
Yeah, or came to the United States.
Well, it did not end up in the Barbara pit like Tito ended up. Yeah. I never didn't like. Yeah. Sure, it killed a lot, but who did the Tsarist system kill? Not Nazis, not fascists, not royalists, poor people. Yeah. So once you figure out, I'm never going to deny that.
I always look at it as punching up. If it's punching up, I don't care. Like it doesn't bother. You're punching down, that's your Nazi.
I cried no tears for your Nazi grandma. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. Slave system would be senseless, stupid, and unnatural under modern conditions. But he means slave as in chattel slavery here, by the way. But under the conditions of a disintegrating primitive communal system, a slave system is quite natural phenomenon, since it represents an advance on the primitive communal system. Not an advance, but a movement on it. I swear to God, somebody mistranslated it just so that you can like smear Stalin with this. The demand for a bourgeois democratic republic when Tsardom and bourgeois society existed, as in, let's say, 1905 Russia, was proper and revolutionary. For at that time, a bourgeoisie republic would have meant a step forward for the proletariat. But now, under the conditions of the USSR, a demand for the bourgeois republic would be a senseless and counter-revolutionary demand on behalf of the proletariat. For the bourgeoisie republic would be a retrograde step compared to the Soviet Republic. So everything depends on conditions, time, and place. And of course, as we know, chattel slavery ended, but what they're doing now is like moving factories to Indonesia and keeping the slaves in Indonesia so that you don't have to see.
Yeah, you don't like the chat. Like that was the child slave. Like we are totally against child slavery, but then we'll buy
buy things from Indonesia or chocolate from Nestle in Africa.
Yeah.
So they just kind of moved to where they were doing this. So they technically don't do chattel slavery, but distinction without it. It's like they've changed locations. So
and they try to say that, but in that society, they need to do that child slavery because it's the only, they need the money
and that's because Europe underdeveloped Africa, as in when they had the schools and the roads, they blew them up. The most recent example is, not the most recent. What am I talking about? The most obvious example is when Clinton blew up the malaria factory in Sudan. And that was the only factory in Sudan, and that they gave malaria drugs for so many people, and so many people died of malaria after he blew up that factory. And one can think, what if it was an accident? Well, in that case, why did not Clinton help rebuild the malaria factory?
Yeah.
Instead, they have to import.
Any of those, like the hospital, any of them, they've never went in and rebuilt. Or like you were saying, like in Afghanistan, we're building a school, but somehow it gets blown up. Like it gets blown up like a couple of weeks after it's made, and there's no rebuilding it or something.
No. They rebuild it by giving the same warlord more money to rebuild the school. And then he builds it, and then he blows it up, and then he comes back. Listen to our interview with Sangar. He explains the whole. And then so when they were like, are women going to be able to go to school under the Taliban? And I'm like, there are no, there are few, but there are, for the majority of people, there are no schools because the US did not build schools. My favorite is the State Department thing where somehow they counted schools without buildings as schools. And how does these schools without, and it's not internet schools. No. They counted those separately. So,
so just people naturally getting together and trying to learn because they have no building or anything.
I don't even think there was a school there.
They're taking credit that, we built that school. It's or
something like that. I don't know what they meant there, but what you realize is that the province that was occupied by the UK the longest had the biggest illiteracy rate at 99%. And then the area that was occupied the most by the US had the second biggest illiteracy rate. And then the area closest to Pakistan that was the least occupied had the biggest literacy rate, but that's nothing compared to what Afghanistan was under the Democratic Republic when they were doing a great job until the US decided to destroy that. And and the Sandinistas took 5 months to eradicate illiteracy. So anything more, if the Sandinistas with absolutely nothing took 5 months, I think the US should be able to do it in 4 months. What do you think?
Yeah. we have the means to do it. So they were starting from nothing and they were able to do it in 5 months. So
they did it in 5 months. So anything over 5 months is you're not trying, or you're having people who are not literate. Okay, let's read. Okay, the demand. Everything depends on the conditions. It is clear that without such a historical approach to social phenomenon, the development of science of history is impossible. For only such an approach saves the history of science from becoming a jumble of accidents and the agglomeration of most absurd mistakes. This is exactly what they do with the US, right? A jumble of accidents and the agglomeration of the most absurd mistakes. Bush made an absurd mistake by going into the Iraq War was a mistake. No, it was not. You know what I mean?
It wasn't a mistake. None of this is a mistake.
No, but I love this part. I'm going to put this over, and I think it's funny. From history from becoming a jumble of accidents, and the most absurd mistakes is the appropriate way to call these. What do you call them? Mistakes? Literally, did Obama make a mistake in Libya? No, he did not. It's an agglomeration of absurd mistakes. And that's basically what they do. If you don't look at exactly, sorry, it just hit, for me, it hit the point of Every time, every US president, they're like, oh, Nixon made a mistake in killing everything that moves. That's not a mistake.
No. Especially
Mistake
when you have like
is, oops, I fell.
Hillary after Libya, like giggling about, like, no, that was not a mistake. They knew what they were doing.
Everything, yeah. Further, if the world is in a state of constant movement and development, if the dying away of the old and the upgrowth of the new is a law of development, then it is clear that there can be no immutable social systems, no external principles of private property. Correct. Private. You read this piece from Simone Farley. It's called "The Tragedy of Private Property." Literally, the idea of private property that you come across is literally like so that they could steal sheep wool. And it's like very new, like not even 100 years old. Libertarians don't. And the subjugation of peasant to landlord or the worker to the capitalist, that's not eternal. Hence, the capitalist system can be replaced by the socialist system, just as at one time the feudal system was replaced by the capital system, and so forth. Hence, we must not base our orientation on the strata of society which are no longer developing, like bourgeoisie owners. They're getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, more and more things are going into their hands. And the strata of society which are developing is poor people, which are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, we're losing that. We lost the middle class, basically. So
I mean, worldwide, it's that.
Yeah.
In the 1880s, in the period of this struggle between the Marxists and the Narodniks, the proletarians in Russia constituted an insignificant minority, as in urban workers. And then, of course, now they're the majority in every country, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are. And there is a big that doesn't mean that the rural and now you don't have rural peasantry. I mean, you do have a peasantry, but they're more like rural workers who work for Monsanto.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's still a corporation. Like these rural workers are all working for corporations.
Exactly.
So working for themselves.
Well, I mean, they were never working for themselves. That was a fiction. I mean, it was just that they had land that was mortgaged, and then they had to give their crops to their landlord. But ultimately, if you got rid of all the silly fictions, it was basically working for a landlord.
Yeah, working for, yeah.
Hence, the transition from the capitalism to socialism and the liberation of the working class from the yoke of the capitalism cannot be effected by slow changes, by reforms, but only by qualitative changes of the capitalist system and by revolution. I mean, you might say Morales in Bolivia, and you might say Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. But no, Evo Morales, they fought the water wars, which was like a real war for 10 years at least.
Yeah.
Ever since like Bechtel stole their water. And in 2005, finally, they had an election where Evo Morales won, but to get to the point where you can have MAS as a party that exists without being shot down, they had to win the water wars.
Yeah. So and that is the point. Like you, to just say you're going to have a movement that has no power behind it, or you have to have an army. You have to have fighters in that movement. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't. We're not going to go from. Like I'm saying, you're not going to just jump right into. You're not going to none of that.
Like socialism is not going to be on the ballot.
So you definitely need like you said, you had to win that war in order for them to get any power.
No, for them to even not get shot down by the deaths. So Evo Morales was the State Department. If you look at the old memos, they disrespectfully call him a cocolero, so the plant.
What does that mean?
Cocolero is like somebody who grows that plant that make Essentially,
cocaine?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But coca or cocoa. I always get it confused with the chocolate plant, so I don't know how to pronounce it.
Cacao is the chocolate, right? And then
What's the cocaine plant?
coca. I thought it was just, I don't know. Coca.
Yeah, I always get those two confused. There's the chocolate and then the cocaine. Well, no, it's not cocaine.
It's just a coca. Yeah, that's a coca, and the cacao is chocolate.
Okay, coca plant. So they called him Cocalero. And what is cool about so cocaine is like after you put it through like so much industrial processing. So it has as much to do with a coca plant has much to do with cocaine as an oak plant has to do with aspirin. It's like it's not the same. But the cool thing about coca plants is that you can make thousands of different things. Like you can make clothes, tea, whatever you want. And a small farmer can cultivate enough to like feed himself. And Evo Morales decided, hey, we're getting screwed by the big people. And so we are going to form a collective, like a farmers collective. Yeah. And he was the head of the farmers collective. And then and so they started demanding good prices. And then he got bigger and bigger because he realized there were other plants like other farmers.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, I mean, if you want to equate that in America, it's the hemp cannabis.
Oh, yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like it's the same thing.
But then he also went past that and then started helping unionize urban workers. And then when they're in Cochabamba, basically Bechtel had stolen their water and the rain. And these people had their bills go up like 80%. And so this was an actual, like Bechtel sent their death squads. These people had to like do whatever they did to kick out the Bechtel people. Eventually they did. Like the IMF wanted Bolivia to like pay Bechtel for its financial water loss for stealing their water or something. And then when you got rid of the US death squads, you can have a movimiento por socialismo without getting killed. And then they had an election where he promised a new constituent assembly, nationalizing all the hydrocarbons. And I forgot what the third thing, whatever the third thing is. Yeah. So he did get elected under the old system, but then the old President Ghani had to like flee the country with like, it was, wait, that's so funny. His name is Sanchez Llorado Gonzalez, and his short name is Ghani, and he had to flee the country with like $100 million from the airplane. And exactly, the Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani, also had to do the same thing.
There you go. Maybe it's in the name.
Yeah, that's really funny. But yes, it might not be a war, but it's not going to be, socialism is not going to, like, the bourgeoisie will never, ever have a system where you can use the system to like end it.
Yeah. Did you see the memo I sent you that like dated yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
From the White House about
where when did you send
Juan Guaido?
Oh, read out with President Biden's call with Venezuelan interim president Juan Guaido.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the point of this?
I don't know. Like, it wasn't
like even 2 months ago when they wanted to negotiate for oil, they negotiated with Maduro.
And they were calling him President Maduro.
Yeah, like this sounds like they're cosplaying, and I don't know like this does nothing but make Biden look stupid.
Yeah, because he comes back just 2 days ago, and then he's like recognizing Juan Guaido again.
Yeah, willing to what? No, but who is Juan Guaido? How can he do anything in Venezuela? Like, he can't even like make a dog bark in Venezuela. So it's like, what's the point of having a call with him other than, and why would you read it out? Because you look stupid here.
I mean, You may like someone from another country calling Trump right now would be better off.
The better analogy is someone from another country calling Newt Gingrich right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And calling him president.
Yeah.
Like no one does it. It's like, it just shows you, I mean, it's not a power move. It just looks like Biden has gone senile and doesn't know who the president of Venezuela is.
I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I'm just like, I can't.
It's absurd.
Administration. I really just can't.
It's absurd. And yeah, okay. So what can Guaido, like, if you have calls with a foreign leader because he's the guy who can make things happen. If you, let's say you wanted something from Venezuela, let's pick another country, Canada. Yeah. You call Trudeau because he's the guy who says who the army is going to behave. But like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. So let's say there's a big ice, a hunk of snow on the border, and yeah, you call Trudeau because he's the one who can mobilize the right people to.
It'd be like calling Jordan Peterson in Canada.
Exactly. He can't make you plow snow. He can't make anyone plow snow.
So sorry.
Yeah, this is not. Okay. I think they literally think this looks like a power move, but this really makes him look senile. It does not look like a power move.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, not for the timing, not for any.
It basically makes it seem like Joe Biden doesn't know who the president is.
Exactly.
Okay. So now, as a Marxist philosophical materialism, it is fundamentally the direct opposite of philosophical idealism, like this. Because just because you call Guaido, one day you decided that Guaido, how did that? One day they decided to call Guaido, self-declared him the president with like 5 people. What was that supposed to do? I don't know.
They couldn't win the coup, so I don't know.
What coup? Like,
it wasn't even a coup. It was.
Oh no! The one where they got caught, where they were sending like 2 people in in a fishing boat, where they got caught from fishermen.
Well, they had that, and then the U.S. aid that went down there, and they found a bunch of guns and the.
Oh yeah, and then like they basically like the Maduro was like, nope, no aid, and then the aid exploded.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
okay. Yeah. And I'm like, since when does, okay. So yeah. And what Biden is doing is philosophical idealism, or I don't even know if it constitutes idealism as much as like cosplaying.
Living in a fantasy world. Yep.
Yeah. Contrary to idealism, which regards the world as an embodiment of an absolute idea and universal spirit consciousness, Marx's philosophical materialism holds that the world is by its very nature multi-material, and that the multifold phenomenon of the world constitute different forms of matter in motion, and that the interconnection and the interdependence of phenomenon as established by the dialectical method are a law of development of moving matter, and that the world develops in accordance with the laws of movement of matter, and it stands in no need of a universal spirit. Okay, so now objective reality. This is something certainly the president needs some help with. Contrary to idealism, which asserts that our only consciousness really exists and that the material world, being nature, exists only in our consciousness, in our sensations, ideas, and perceptions, Marxist philosophical materialism holds that matter and nature being is an objective reality existing outside and independent of our consciousness. And basically our sensations and feelings are basically how the material world interacts with us.
Yeah.
So when you feel a hot stove and you're like, that is basically our brain trying to interact, like our brain, I don't know, what is it?
Well, yeah, it's sending us the messages, so it's like
like a signal from the material world, like
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
The question. Okay, that's the same exact Marx's example. I have read this before, so that's why I'm probably using the same examples. The world and its laws are knowable. This is the most important thing that Americans don't understand. Some people say that they are Nazis, and the other people say that they are freedom fighters. Who's to know? And then you get into the liberal, like, what if? But then if you are like, okay, if I'm given enough information, I can figure out who's a Nazi and who's a freedom fighter. Oh, look at that swastika and that trizob and that Hitler tattoo and the Goebbels tattoo. Oh my God, there's also a Himmler tattoo on his face. Okay. Like Randy.
I love the one the one that pointed out. I know I think I showed it to you. Was the guy that was saying, yeah, they're doing that just to own the Russians, like just to troll them. They're putting tattoos on their body,
Hitler tattoos,
to troll the Russians. That's
about what
are their body. Yep.
Like, what is it like, what's the troll? The troll, it must involve a practical joke upon the other person.
Yeah.
Like a good troll would be if Kim Jong-un were to call somebody an informant on the State Department and say, I'm dead.
I know.
Stalin does get into a little bit of a Lenin trolling Kant, Emmanuel. Contrary to idealism, okay, we've gotten that. Criticizing the thesis of Kant and other idealists in that the world is unknowable, that there are things in themselves which are unknowable, and that defending the well-known materialist thesis that our knowledge is authentic knowledge, Engels writes, the most telling refutations of all of this, as of all other philosophical crochets, is practice. Oh, like not, okay, he means not, right?
Nodding, yeah.
It's practice, namely experiment and industry. If we are able to prove the correctness of our conception of a natural process by making it ourselves, by bringing it into being out of its conditions, by making it serve our own purpose into a bargain, then there is no end to then there's an end to the ungraspable thing in itself. Like, for example, if you figure out that ice, actually, let me finish. Okay. Thank you, Tipa. Like if you figure out that if you put water in a freezer, it turns into ice. Now, like there's no mist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you boil water and it turns to, the chemical okay. Okay. For three. Okay. So, and accusing Bogdana. Okay, that's Lenin mocking them. It is easy to understand how immensely important the extension of principles of philosophical materialism is to the study of social life, history of society, and how immensely important it is the application of principles to the history of society and to the practical activities of the party of the proletariat. And that's where I think, like another thing about Russian misinformation. Let's just think about logically. Why would Russia, what is the purpose if Russia is misinforming you? Is to make the US look bad. But to make the US look bad, you don't need misinformation. You just need information, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like,
there's like 10,000, in fact, there's like an overwhelming number of.
Sorry, my father locked the cat in here.
It's just like going to GoFundMe.com and showing all the cases of medical GoFundMes. That's enough if they want to make US look.
I mean, like anything. I mean, I am the fact that like Russia has healthcare and we don't have healthcare. That like right there is huge. Like they could totally just beat on that drum all the time,
or anything like China can do like racism, healthcare, whatever. It does not take misinformation. It just takes information to make the US look bad. But if you're doing a bad thing, like, I don't know, killing everyone in the village, you need to misinform the population because people are not going to approve of that.
Yeah. I think what I feel like the U.S. does a lot is it's a projection in a major way, and they honestly cannot understand a government not being like our government.
Exactly. No. It's even worse when you get to the State Department goals. Like, they just can't understand not being a goal.
Yeah, they don't understand a foreign policy that doesn't take in imperialism, that doesn't, that's not the driving force is imperialism. Mm-hmm. They don't quite understand that. It's ridiculous to me when I saw a comment, someone saying, oh, well, we have to stop Russia in Ukraine because like the Germany, like they were saying something about Schultz, like whatever he was saying, like not giving weapons, whatever it was Schultz was doing, like not.
What was Schultz do? Okay.
Whatever it was, was against what Ukraine.
Allegedly.
So then they're sitting there saying, why isn't he thinking like you know that Russia's going to go and attack Germany after Ukraine? Like, and I'm like,
why did they think that? Last time they did it because there was Hitler. Is there Hitler?
Exactly. Because they had East Germany, so they can say that was part of them. Russia doesn't want to do that. That's not what Russia wants.
No one. Okay, East Germany. You'd be surprised. It's kind of funny because now when they look at it, like even the State Department agrees that Russia. Okay, so that's a case of big projection, and it's kind of funny because the one case I remember, and this Iranian guy also said this, well, is basically they were like talking to Molotov and asking him about things about Kim Il-sung. And Molotov's like, well, what are you talking about? We're not there. Go ask Kim Il-sung yourself. To them, it seems like Molotov was kind of being dishonest, passing the ball, avoiding the issue. But he was telling the truth in that he was not in charge of Kim Il-sung. So I have to go. And it's the same exact thing. The U.S. asks Yemen to control the Houthis and Iran. Sorry, the U.S. asks Iran to control the Houthis, and the Iranians are like, we don't control them. And that's actually the truth. They don't control them. They can't.
They don't. Like you could, just in the United States, you could say, hey, United States government control all the white supremacists. They don't really,
they can if they wanted to.
They don't really have control over them because they, it's not, they're not really part, like in Ukraine, they definitely could have more control over them by kicking them out of the army.
This is kind of a who's the boss situation. So twice I've seen them try to disarm these battalions, and these battalions have been rogue. Like once this right sector battalion, like quote unquote, was reporting quote unquote corruption, and then they ended up kidnapping a 6-year-old, holding him hostage, and then like blowing up 2 police cars. But then Kiev was not able to ask these battalions, this battalion, to disarm, but instead they fired the police chief. And and then with Tornado Battalion, they had to have a big shootout, like a school exploded. It was a lot of work getting them to disarm. And then just last year, Zelensky tried to get the Azov to disarm, and the Azov said, if Zelensky doesn't behave, he's not only going to lose his position, but his life. So, yeah, I think U.S. has a lot easier job getting rid of the white supremacy.
Oh, they definitely could do something about it. They don't want to do something about it, but
but Ukraine, I don't think they can without getting killed. Like, I think they did somebody like Putin to go in to denazify, because it was a who's the boss situation.
Well, I feel like there's Americans now like, hello, can someone please invade us and help us?
Well, sure. But I mean, look at what happened in November of 2021 when Zelensky tried to tried to get them to disarm. They basically took a hostage, and Dmitry Yarosh threatened his life. And Zelensky and Ukraine's army was not really Ukraine doesn't really have an army besides these psychos. Yeah. And so it's not, like I said, I get the tornado battalion example. So he who has all the weapons and is the total psycho kind of gets to rule that place. Yeah. So, Putin is not wrong when he says the entire nation is held hostage by a gang of Nazis and drug addicts because, yeah, there are 56 Dobrobrats. And yeah, they are in each town with a gang of Nazis and drug addicts. And so, I mean, of course, if the U.S. were to bloody stop sending them weapons, everything will turn around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they, you know, if we stop supplying them, stop
just stop the weapons, and
they'd have to surrender at some point. You know what I mean?
So the reason why Ukraine had to do this was because, so the first time when the Donbas area declared independence, they sent one army unit. That army defected. There's one really funny video clip of their interim president like disbanding the 25th Airborne Brigade because they were apparently cowards and surrenderers, and they literally like handed over the weapons. And in February of 2015, Ukraine actually passed a bill that said commanders can legally shoot deserters, and still. They had over 100,000 people in the army, 25,000 deserters. So they had to get these psycho battalions because they could not get the real army to fight this fight.
Well, they didn't want to fight their own people. Like
the Ukrainian people, Ukraine's the first thing is like, I'm not fighting people and I'm not firing on other Ukrainians. And then they just like handed over the weapons. And so when you can't get the real army to fight and you need to hire Nazi mercenaries, and then now the Nazi mercenaries are kind of gone rogue.
Yeah.
Well, if you remember in the first one where they claimed that these Navy men, they were normal people and they immediately surrendered, if you remember.
Yeah, not the other one, Snake Island.
Yeah, they immediately surrendered. They did not say anything. They're just like, okay.
Yeah, it was like 80 of them just like, okay.
Yeah. So and the people who aren't surrendering are the Azovs and the Tornadoes and the Idars and all the psychos.
Yeah.
But the U.S. can control both. Okay, so the U.S. has more control over Ukrainian Nazis than anyone in Ukraine, and they can do that by just like not arming them. Oh, and then like of course stopping mercs from going up. Yeah. But the U.S. won't.
So I think you're at if there are no isolated phenomena.
Yeah, and I'm skipping the part where Lenin makes fun of all these people. It is easy to understand how immensely important is the extension of principles of we finished that. In connection between phenomenon of nature and their independence are laws of development of nature. It too follows that the connection and interdependence of phenomenon of social lives are the law of development of society and not something accidental. And we discussed this. It has to do with food. First level, most basic food production is how an economy is organized. And then you build other layers of crap to justify this layer. And you can extend food production to stuff or things.
Yeah. Okay.
if the world is knowable and our knowledge of laws of development of nature is authentic knowledge and having the validity of objective truth, it follows that social life and the development of society is noble, and the data of science regarding the laws of development of societies are authentic data having the validity of objective truth. Yeah. And that's why you don't have to do both sides. Side A said this, side B said this, who knows, right?
Yeah.
The party of the proletariat should not guide itself in its practical activities by casual motives, but the laws of development of societies and practical deductions from these laws. Like, for example, there's so many examples, I don't know where to, okay, yeah. So, okay, I'm not using, so in India, for example, the Communist Party knew that, without the farmers, everyone's screwed. So then when the BJP decided to decollectivize their market, so the idea is that, like, if you were like Walmart, you couldn't go to each individual farmer and, like, I don't know, have a, you know what I mean? Have like, you know what happens if you go to individual little farmers, right? What happens? Like the price, undercut prices until it, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna get, you're gonna.
You're gonna be like, he offered me 1 cent less, and then what it is that all the farmers formed a collective, and you had to negotiate with the collective who set the price, and negotiating with any of they formed a cartel, not a collective, but whatever. Yeah, collective sounds nicer than cartel, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bunch of people with the same
who set prices,
and then they say, okay, this is whatever. It's kind of like, in the sense, like a union, like everyone's going to get paid the same. Everyone, like, you're not like, no one's going to get screwed, or there's not going to be this one guy that has more 35 stuff that can undercut it, and then these little guys get totally screwed.
No.
Like,
exactly. So like if you're a store like Walmart, you have to go to the
collective.
Or the nicer word for cartel, I guess. And then they'll say, okay, we will sell you strawberries at this price, and they have to buy it at this price if they want strawberries, and they don't have a choice. So when Modi was trying to deregulate that so that Walmart could kind of go to the individual farmers, the party of the proletariat was like, farmers are really, no. And they have formed a really big strike. And when farmers go on strike, everyone's like, even the BJP were like, okay, sorry. We're withdrawing the bill, and they withdrew the bill. And it was funny because they asked one farmer, like a Western reporter asked one farmer, "Is this a revolt? Like, do you hope that this is a revolt?" And he was like, "No, sir. We hope that this is a revolution."
Yeah. And circling back to it, like, as you brought up, okay, how does societies form? And it was farmers. So like, farmers are they're the backbone. You have to, like, you got to play ball with the farmers because they're the ones feeding everyone, and that's the most important.
And that's what the party of all the parties of the proletariat of India has many Marxist-Lenin. There's 3 Marxist-Lenin. Okay. There's CPIM, which is the Maoist, CPII, which is the Marxist-Leninist, and I think there's a Trotskyist party. So all of them did this more or less the same thing, which was organize the farmer strike. And that's why you didn't see so many videos of it, because everyone was flying the communist flag. That's why you didn't see a single video of it in America.
No, you didn't really see a lot of it. I mean, you heard,
and it was the world's biggest strike of like 500 million.
I know. It wasn't all over the place. You didn't see it on social media. You didn't, like, I saw very little of it.
That's because of the flag that they were waving. And there was no way they could. Okay. And so that was a good example. Okay. So let's go on. I lost my place.
I'm not positive where you were because you skipped a little.
No. I was at Knowable. And the party of the proletariat. I just skipped things that I've already said. And I'm not, like, if I say it and then I realize it's because I've read.
You didn't do all his hences. Hence.
Yeah, exactly. It should not guide itself. Okay, that's where it was. Socialism is converted from a dream of a better future for humanity into a science. Example, China and rice. Now they can grow rice in places you did not even think you could grow it. Rice, and so at once it was like being able to grow rice in the middle of the Sahara or something like that seemed like a dream.
Yeah.
But then they figured out how to genetically engineer crop. And then now, okay, middle of the Sahara may be an exaggeration, but you can grow rice with a lot less water. And in many places in Africa where they didn't have enough water to grow rice, now you can grow it.
Yep.
Okay, the bond between science and practical activity, between theory and practice, and their unity should be the guiding star of the party of the proletariat. And this is the example, rice. Right? If nature, the material world, is primary consciousness, thought is secondary, derivative. If the material world represents objective reality existing independently of the consciousness of people, while a consciousness is a reflection of objective reality, it also follows that the material life of society, its being, is also primary, and spiritual life is secondary and derivative. Notice he's not saying that spiritual life is full of shit, like he's not anti-religion.
Yeah.
And the material life of society and existing independently of the will of the men, while the spiritual life of society is a reflection of this objective reality, a reflection of being. That's very interesting. I can't say I disagree. Hence, the source of formation of the spiritual life of society, origin of social ideas, social theories, political views, institutions should not be sought for in the ideas, theories, and political institutions themselves, but in the conditions of the material life of society in social being, of which these ideas are the reflection. Okay. This one's important. I just skipped 2 paragraphs because it's just repeating what Mark's already said. In order not to err in policy, in order not to find itself in a position of ideal dreamers, the party of proletariats must not base its activities on the abstract principles of human reason, but on the concrete conditions of material life of society as the determining source of social development, not on the good wishes of great men, but on the real needs of development of the material life of society. So let's see. The example of a good policy in Vietnam, they give you I forgot how can you Luna mentioned this, you know how much they give everyone so much land?
I don't know if it wasn't it's
enough to basically grow enough rice to feed 4 people.
Yeah, 4 people for a year. Yeah.
That's a family, roughly. So here is how the party of the proletariat in its policy was very practical and not ideal. And they were looking at what people needed. And the most basic thing is that they need food. So that's why that I could not think of a better example. Can you think of a better example of that? Well, there are, but I don't know. I can't think of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, they definitely have, in other, I don't know.
I just can't. No, I mean, this is a good example of a party of the proletariat basing its policy on the material conditions of society.
Yeah. I mean, food is your number one basic need is food. So, so you take care of these basic needs in society and
build upon that afterward. Then you go do whatever's next. And it was just for me very clearly laid out when Luna showed her land.
Yeah. I like that. That was kind of neat. And it's and they do the land is all that isn't the family kind of all together. So her aunt has the plot next to hers or something like that.
I thought, something like that.
So then if, they can actually help each
Mix
other
and
out
match.
in their little community. You know what I mean? Like, so like you have your own little plot, but you can actually help with other plots too if you needed to. So.
Yeah, they just and the goal is to make sure that no one goes hungry, and and
your
that's
family.
literally if you have enough rice to feed your whole family, and you're guaranteed that you'll never go hungry.
Yep.
The fall of the utopians, including Narodniks, anarchists, and social revolutionaries, was due, among other things, they did not recognize the primary role in which conditions of material life and society play in the development of society, and sinking to idealism. They did not base their practical activities on the needs of development of material life of society, but independently of and in spite of the needs on ideal plans and all-embracing projects divorced from real life of society. We have plenty of all-embracing projects in America, divorced from reality. Yeah.
I will say that Kropotkin had this right, but he based a lot, like he used Marx.
Yeah.
And Engels and stuff like that. But because he recognized, okay, we need to. But I mean, other than that, like, I like saying the anarchist, so that's the anarcho-communism, of course. So he's using the basis.
Yeah. Okay. Build that wall. That's a ridiculous all-embracing project. All divorced from reality.
Yes. The wall was dumb. Like it's something that it's not helping the people. It's not helping like anything that's like, let me try to think of like something.
I was thinking, I just need an ideal plan, all embracing project that's ridiculous and divorced from real life.
And divorced from real life.
I can't think of anything better than build that wall.
Yeah. I mean, the building the wall, even like, I don't know, in certain ways, like even like trying to keep pushing the fossil fuels instead of like looking at newer ways, because we do need to move on from that, like, so like when we're sitting there putting all our work into fracking and stuff like that, instead of like trying to come up with something better, like or pushing electronic cars when people can't afford them, for one thing. And another thing is 61% of our electricity in the United States comes from fossil fuels. So it's like,
this quote I like. The strength and vitality of Marxism and Leninism lies in the fact that it does base its practical activity on the needs of development of the material life of society, and never divorces itself from the real life of society. Like a Marxist Leninist is never calling Juan Guaido
the president. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Like calling Juan Guaido itself is like divorcing yourself from real life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he like you said, he has no power in doing anything. So why would
the American
most powerful man in the world, which is always considered the president of the United States right now at this time in the world, but they always consider that the most powerful man in the world, which
why is he calling?
But like, why is he calling this person who
has
nothing? Like he has, there's no.
I mean, if it's to show of power, as in, like, to me, this seems like making three wishes. Like, if you wish something hard enough, Juan Guaido will become president. And no matter how many times Joe Biden calls him, he's not president.
No, and that's one of the things they do. The like in our media, like the more, if we just keep saying the same thing over and over, then it becomes reality. Like that. That's what they believe.
Yeah. With the Ukraine war, they seem to think that just because I don't know their narrative, it's like no. But you have to look at who's on the ground and whose army is where. That's how you determine how the war is going.
Yeah, I mean, like them keep coming out and like it's so funny, like watching. Like I never really paid attention day to day to a war, just because I had, I'm anti-war. Like, I feel anti-war, like in the sense, like I wouldn't pay attention to America being over in Iraq or something like that. So somehow this year I've been able to, watch some of it. I have to.
Because you can't stop. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like
but I have to back away sometimes in pictures and stuff. Like get to me a little bit, but
it's literally you can't stop it. It's like everywhere.
Like I just see it, but like to see it as it's going, and then to watch the narrative, that the Western narrative that Ukraine is winning, and then people are like, are you even watching the Ukraine side of it? You're just taking what I go, no, I watch both sides of it. Like I go in and
no, you can't watch, like when there is a war, there is one troops fighting against the other troops. It's not like
there's a reality.
It's an interaction. It's like a tango. So it's impossible to not see the Ukraine side of the war since they're half of the war.
Exactly. And so it's like, and they're like, oh, you're not. I'm like, no, I am actually paying attention to what's going on both sides. And like any of what's coming out of the mouths of our media is
crazy.
Just not reality.
Oh yeah, for me the funniest one was Erin. What's her CNN? Erin something. She was like, Putin says that there are Nazis in Ukraine. Fast forward, but rewind. Same person 4 years ago. Oh, look at all the Nazis in Ukraine, and
exactly.
And I'm like, how did you forget that? You're the one who said this about the Nazis in Ukraine, and Putin's not lying about it. But yeah. It's a ridiculous thing because I'm looking at videos uploaded by people in like some of the special battalions in Ukraine themselves. And yeah, I'm looking at where the armies are and whose armies where. And yeah, exactly. You can't avoid the war, but then when you look at what the U.S. covers, the first thing I noticed is that in CNN, somehow they're in Kiev and in nowhere else. That is not covering a war.
Yeah, they're just, well, where's Nance? Where is he just like hanging out?
In Kiev, he's too important of an asset to put his life at risk by being outside of that 5-star hotel in Kiev. Trolling on the internet. That's what he replied to Alex Rubinstein.
But this is why, like, our media is just all talking heads. They it would be one thing if they say they even acknowledged that 4 years ago, 4 years ago I thought this. Like, that would actually make me feel better about them than them just pretending that they never said that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And all of them have done special reports, segments, documentaries, whatever you want to call them. Like Time even did this thing about the child soldiers in Ukraine.
Yeah. And what was the one that was a big one that I had shared, one that came out just in 2019. And it was like, it wasn't Time. It was one of the...
Was it about the child soldiers?
No, this was about the Nazis. This was about them training, like kind of the Nazi battalions and stuff like that. And it was just like, it was God, it wasn't Time, but it was like one of those
big outlets. Yeah.
But like something like that, like it could have even been 60 Minutes, I'm thinking, or all of them. Like that. But then all of a sudden 60 Minutes this year, oh, poor Ukraine, Russia, totally changing their view on it.
Yeah, I mean, if they accurately covered the last 8 years of all the things that these Dobro volunteer battalions were up to, everything. Oh my God! I mean,
if they accurately covered that, and the Americans would be like, "Oh my God, we got to go in and save these people."
No, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Americans do not need to go in and save anywhere, please.
No. Anyway.
That would be worse.
Stay home.
Yeah. Ukrainian.
Leave us here. We need a lot of work here. We don't.
Yeah. Ukraine can handle. It's been around for thousands. Ukraine itself has not, but the people have. They can take care of themselves. They're grown-ups, and they are. And so, yeah. So, yeah, it's like then they're really getting it's so they didn't even okay. So the thing about Crimea is they covered Maidan because it's like the kind of gore that it was a made-for-TV execution. So they covered Maidan. But then, like after Maidan, they said Crimea referendum, but they never covered what happened to the people who were trying to go from Kiev to Crimea right after Maidan, and why and what caused that referendum to happen. So people didn't connect it. So if you look at what happened on the highway and how there was one bus set on fire, I mean, it's horrible things happen to people that would cause them to declare independence.
They since spun Maidan too. They try to put it not, you know, what I mean? Like they first tried to put it on the president at the time that he was in Russia. Like they got him over into Russia. And so it was Yankovic.
Yanukovych.
Names, I get them all mixed up. But
Well, okay, it's really funny. Ukraine has had many presidents named Victor Y. There was Victor Yushchenko, Victor Yanukovych. So it's easy to get all the Ukrainian presidents named Victor confused.
Yes. So like it just feels like, you know, like even if they did cover it, there was always this pretense of it being
something
to do with Russia.
yeah, exactly. And we know now, thanks to because it was the most. There were so many films and so many recordings, from so many angles that they did so many analysis that you know exactly where all the shots were fired. They were all fired from this one hotel room. And we know who fired it because they weren't the right sector.
Yeah.
And so we literally know who fired it, and it was not the government. It was the right sector or the people that the U.S. funded, armed, and trained to do this. But then
we don't even listen to like the people like the right sector and Azov and all them. They have come out and been like, yeah, we went in and we killed people. Like they were Russian speaking. Oh, look at this film. Like we just lit someone on fire on a cross. Like they had no problem showing what they were doing.
Oh, they still do. I mean, you can go to their Telegram and you can look at all the people they killed, all the atrocities. They're like, oh, look at all the orcs we set on fire. Look at this house we set on. I mean, you can still do it. It's not that hard. I mean, it doesn't even take effort, but
you're denying stuff in real time. Like they're sitting there telling you, you know, that would be like me telling you my name is Janet and you're going, no, your name's not Janet.
Your name is Carol. Exactly.
It's not Carol, man.
Exactly.
It's so that weird to me. Like that.
No, it's exactly right. This objective reality part is very, especially this war, because we can't, it's like, okay, so I don't know how a non-real CNN was before this war, because I didn't feel like that. It was not blowing in my face all the time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You might want to move. You might want to move a little bit because your mic is like right.
Oh, sorry.
That's
okay. Okay, so new sociality only arise after the development of material life of society has set new tasks before society. Once they have arisen, they become a potent force which facilitates carrying new tasks set by the development of material life in society, a force which facilitates progress in society. This seems obvious, okay? It's precisely here that the tremendous organizing, mobilizing, and transforming value of new ideas, new theories, new political views, new political institutions manifests itself. New social ideas and theories arise precisely because they are necessary to society, because it is impossible to carry out the urgent task of development. What happened to my thingy? Urgent task of development. What happened? This is so weird.
Of the material life of society. What did it jump? Do you want to just go to 3 for?
No, I found it. I found
Okay.
it. Oh, okay. I guess we're going to wait for 3 for next week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we should do, we'll, like, this is about half, so we can stop here and then.
Okay, let me just finish this paragraph.
Yeah.
Where am I?
It was set by the development of the material life of society.
Because it is impossible to carry out urgent tasks of development of material life in society without okay, yeah. Arising out of the new tasks set by the development of material life, new social ideas and theories force their way and become the possession of the masses and so forth. Okay, so it's a cycle, like the circle of life, that song. Okay, hence, in order to be able to influence the conditions of material life and society and their development and their improvement, the party of the proletariat must rely upon a social theory, such a social idea as correctly reflects the needs of development of material life of society, which is therefore capable of setting into motion broad masses of people and mobilizing them and organizing them into a great army of the party of the proletariat, prepared to smash the reactionary forces and to clear the way for the advance forces of society. That sounds clear. The fall of the economists and the Mensheviks was due, among other things, that they did not recognize the mobilizing, organizing, and transforming role of advanced theory on the advanced theory
Of advanced ideas.
Advanced theory of advanced ideas and sinking into vulgar materialism, and reduce the role of these factors to almost nothing, and thus condemning the party to passivity and inaction. That sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Democratic Party, for example, does not trust the masses at all. So, I mean, okay, so the Republicans have this utter psychotic idea, like, I don't know, one of many. If you were to just like have 1 million people come, like not even, you probably need 30 people or something, like come and just scream, they're going to be frightened enough. But the Democratic Party would rather like condemn itself to passivity, right?
Yeah. So they rather just.
Oh no.
Yeah, like
you have to come and vote. It's your fault if you don't. Well, what are you doing between those two elections? The strength and vitality of Marxism and Leninism is derived from the fact that it relies upon an advanced theory which correctly reflects the needs of development of material life of society, and that it elevates theory to a proper level, and that it deems its duty to utilize every ounce of mobilizing and organizing and transforming power of this theory. Very different from the Democratic Party. And that is the answer historical materialism gives to the questions and relations between social being and social consciousness, between the conditions of development of material life and the development of spiritual life in society.
Yeah.
So we're going to save the historical materialism part for next week. But yeah, with bourgeois, okay, so the main thing is that Marxist theory is actually based on real life. Like this is A and this is B. We want to get to C. So let's try building a bridge over this river to get to C. And then you need to know the principles of physics or whatever, and then you build a bridge.
Yeah.
But bourgeoisie theory is not that. It's basically, here's an A and B, and we're happy. We are happy with A and B. We don't want you to get to C. Yeah. So look over there. There's a dog.
Yeah. Or they. It's always incremental. We'll get there. Okay. I'm 50 years old, and I've been told this.
Hold on. I need to replace battery. Just give me 1 second.
But I'm 50 years old, and I've been told that we will get to say healthcare my whole life. Do you know what I mean? And it's been 50 years now. So where's the incrementalism in that? And it's even been longer than that, because you had a lot of other countries that were already there before I was even born. So
Okay.
But
You were
yeah.
totally okay. I heard that you're 50 years old. That's the last part.
Oh,
in
so
theory.
I'm saying like you take incrementalism, but like I'm 50 and there's been things over my lifetime, like say healthcare that, oh, we're gonna get there. We'll get there. We're gonna get, if there's this lie and this.
Yeah, we're all gonna hold hands, and then we're not gonna build a bridge because that's too extreme. But we will, I don't know, swim.
We'll slowly get there, but we're not doing anything to even slowly get there. Like, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, well, for me, it was the AOC's 35-year plan. And I'm like, come on, the Bolsheviks did a revolution in a shorter time than that.
Well, not that, like, everything that has been done can be undone. Like,
I know, but her, like,
oh my God, we're in this point and we can't do this. No, we can do this.
But you're choosing not to because
do this.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, they're not choosing per se, but rather it's either, okay, they don't have the skills, that's first. They don't even understand what the problem is, that's two. But yeah, incrementalism is just like false premise of one day, eventually, if you're a slave. I mean, if you work hard, one day you're going to not be a slave.
Maybe you'll get a free aspirin.
Yeah, it won't work. Yeah, and if is it me, or do you think the Democrats have gotten even more incremental as time goes on?
Oh, they. It's not even that they've gotten incrementalist. They've stopped even doing the incrementalism, but they tout it. They're like, hey, we'll just do incrementalism, but they don't.
They're not.
They're not even doing that. Like,
I know.
They've stopped in their tracks of even doing anything that would help the people of the U.S. or even the world, because they, like, oh, we'll get to this one day.
Yeah.
How? When no one's working for it, how are we going to? When you put people in Congress or the Senate that sit there and they get voted in because they're going, hey, I want this, this, and this. And then they get in there and they are quiet about it. They don't even like talk about it. They don't even.
Well, for me, it's really funny when you look at 2019 to 2021, all these like bills that were that was going to get pigeonholed in the Senate. Congress passed Medicare for all, like literally everything that they knew that the Senate was going to throw away because they didn't have the majority.
Yeah.
But then now all these bills are not being fake passed because now you have to put the Senate on the spot.
Which they should be on the spot.
I know, but it was like their dumb act into it. Oh my God, that was so annoying because you knew that everyone thing was going to get pigeonholed. So they can act like, oh, whatever you want.
I mean, I would just say, like, I honestly, I didn't expect much from Biden, but I didn't expect this little. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I expected him to do a couple of things. Like, I don't know. I just feel like he's not doing anything he said he was going to do.
I mean, who is he? Clearly, Biden is not in any condition.
As I'm saying he, I mean, whatever.
That team, who is in that
whatever
team?
that team is that's running America right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no... like, I don't even know what that team is or anything. And yeah,
that's why, like, even like, I mean, I gave up. I knew a long time ago that they, like I say, they call the president like the most powerful man in the world, right? And I knew a long time ago, no, that's not exactly true at all. But it seems even more so under like Trump and Biden, like it's just so evident.
Yeah, last week when he said the president did not have the power to regulate gas, I showed a video of Nixon, right? Not only regulating gas, but all consumer products.
Yep.
If you can't be as progressive as Nixon.
Like that's how sad it is. It's just like they, like, and that's why it was so, and it's so amazing because like, under Trump, a lot of the liberals, this is Trump's fault. Like gas went up, that's Trump's fault.
It is in theory,
but it's not Biden's fault. So either it is Trump and Biden's fault, or it's neither Trump or Biden's fault.
And both of them should have been able to handle what Nixon did.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could have. We shouldn't be where we're at right now. Not at all.
No. Like it's such low expectations is be as progressive in domestic policy as Nixon.
And every step that Biden has taken has made it worse.
What has he taken any steps? No.
Well, I mean, like doing the sanction, like sanctions, stuff like that, like made, it made a lot of the shit worse for the West, not for.
I mean, yes, but then like they could import oil from Venezuela if they wanted to.
Well, now that they're calling Guaido president, they
can't.
I think Maduro, not doing that.
Yeah. But like that's an example of a practical step that they could take if they're allegedly sanctioning Russia.
And then they get and that's the whole thing. Like they got people worked up. They get all the liberals worked up. Oh, we can't do any Russian gas. And then Russia's still selling gas to some of these places, and the liberals are all mad.
Right. No. Actually, Russia's selling more gas to India and China, and it's like, yeah. So sanctions not working.
Exactly. Like what do they? And that it's just a small mindedness. It's totally not being able to see beyond
yourself.
Yourself, well, you're the country.
Yeah, but the thing is that so there's 5 billion people in the 5 billion people in the continent of Asia, 1 billion in 4 billion. I don't know, whatever. 1 billion in Africa, 5 billion. No. 1 billion in Europe, 1 billion in Africa, and the rest in I don't know something like
the Americas.
That. No, I don't think the Americas has a billion, does it?
Well, we're a third of a billion, so it's probably just
Brazil's about a third of a billion,
and we're about a third of a billion. So I would say we're about a billion in the Americas.
Okay, so then 4 billion or whatever. If 4 billion people are trading with you, you're not getting sanctioned. I mean,
well, and that's the whole thing. Like, it's the joke of. Everybody is against Russia. Everybody. No, that's not even half the world. Like that's 30 countries is not even half.
Yeah, basically all of Africa, all of Asia.
Like you're missing like huge swaths of land with lots of people on them.
Yeah. And so the sanctions are not working.
No.
But this is because they prepared themselves for the sanctions. And then, so they don't have anything in their arsenal besides, do they have anything in their arsenal besides sanctions and war?
I mean, just giving, supplying the world with more machines. Yeah. I mean, that's all they do is.
There's nothing in the arsenal here.
Yeah.
And
they don't, I want to as you were reading some of this stuff, and I go back, I think, and I don't know, because history, whatever history is, and what you learn, and what is taught, and what really reality is, it's always as we put it, the state, it's always the news or the history is what the states want you to know. You know what I mean? It's never the average person on the street giving the history. So what happened in Rome? I feel like Rome, even with them collapsing, I think that they did more for the people than the United States does as an empire. You know what I mean?
Read Michael Parenti's Julius Caesar book. You're gonna love it.
That's next up. I never read it, so that's my next book to read. Is the the assassination of Julius Caesar?
Yeah, Rome did way more for its people. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like I said, we just have a whole bunch of Kool-Aid drinkers. Nixon never drank the Kool-Aid. He knew he was bullshitting you about the free market. But here, I think we got a generation of Kool-Aid drinkers.
I think, like, I honestly think, and even my father's 87 years old, and he's like, he really honestly thinks it pretty much started like right after Nixon is where it kind of made this really weird turn. And if you think of it, that's right when neoliberalism was ushered in, like under Jimmy Carter with the trucking stuff, and then
on Reagan, it was that with steroids.
It was privatization all over the place, and we still push that stuff. So there's got to be some sort of connection there too. But it's like they're not even. I don't even feel like they don't even care to make it look good anymore.
Yeah. Like I said, they don't. No. Yeah. It feels a lot like I don't. Yeah, they feel it does feel like the Tsar of Russia, where he didn't kind of understand, or Marie Antoinette, where they didn't kind of understand what the people are looking at.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. Like being in they talk about the DC bubble. So you're in a bubble, you're not understanding. But when you have, like, to sit there and say, like, all these people protesting are like, listen to them. Like,
what protest are we talking about now?
Well, like, say, like, you have, I don't know, like, say people are saying we need healthcare, or we like we need less police brutality, or like anything like that. Like, okay, your answer to less police brutality has been to
more police brutality,
give them more money. Like, how does that square? Like, how does that square for a liberal? How does that square for?
Well, it protects them from you. And I think that's all they want is a bubble in their status quo.
And then when they're mad about, something going on, and then they get thrown to the ground, they're never
going to get thrown to the ground but their bubble will burst one day, but they just want to be in that bubble forever.
I get so frustrated. I get so frustrated because I guess, like, for me, like, I feel like I grew up solidly in a middle class America. I was, my father was an engineer, my mom was a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have like tons of money. We didn't get everything, but we lived in a town that kind of became more like, my parents lived here when it was still kind of farmland, and it kind of got gentrified because it's kind of close to Boston, so it's easy for doctors and lawyers to live here and whatever. But it's like, I feel like, I saw that part of the world, but I could always, like, I lived in that part of the world, but I feel like I always could kind of see beyond that. Like, and I don't, maybe for me, like, I just don't get, like, how someone can think that everybody has it like they do.
I don't think they think everybody has it like they do. They just don't care, and they just don't want. They want to have their illusions, and they just, yeah.
But they'll put BLM in their profile,
and then they'll bomb Libya, and they'll defend Hillary Clinton for bombing Libya. So
yes, and yes,
that must not. So Black lives must have not mattered so much to them.
Yeah, not one bit. So yeah.
Hi. So I had already kind of gone to bed, but then it looks like we have some questions. So can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? No.
You're good. You're good.
Good. Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
So can we read out the questions or comments or whatever we need to discuss?
Yeah, let me see. So from Mr. Difficile, I hope I'm saying that right. He is asking, do you see France as cocked as America? The left is non-existent.
Absolutely not. In France, they know how to strike and they know how to do collective joint action, and at least they can get themselves some decent wages when need be.
Yeah, and then I don't think we had.
But then there's the Reed Enver Hoxha's Euro-communism is anti-communism because there is a limit. Like, so they're not as cucked as the U.S., where the U.S. is still stuck at 15, fighting for 15, when you've been fighting for 15 for 10 years and you haven't had a minimum wage raise since 2008. That's like major lameness. So France is not that, but to read a critique of the French left, read Enver Hoxha's Euro-communism is anti-communism.
Yeah, I don't think that we have any other real questions. I mean,
comments?
We're talking about the French voters went to the polls. So the comment. Hold on, let me just look for here. I'm sorry. When Trudeau and Biden get together. I don't know. They were talking. Someone was talking about Ukraine a little bit.
Okay. Well, we still have that video that we need to put up with Ukraine. Remember where I kind of quickly go over who all the main characters were?
Yeah, the Newland stuff. I actually have that. I probably put it up tomorrow. So
okay, we'll put that up.
Yeah, I was having issues with my
No worries.
With the premiere. So yeah, just I mean nothing. Is there anything else anyone else wants to talk about? Because I think I don't know. I think we might be all done.
Yeah. Well, thank you for hanging out with us this Wednesday. If Wednesday works, we'll try for next Wednesday, where I'll finish reading Historical Materialism. And Historical Materialism is important because you've seen my meme about how to fool a liberal.
Yeah.
Where you just take off the swastika from their hats and then they're like, freedom fighters, Nazis, freedom fighters. That's because liberals have historical materialism problems. And the episode of Historically that's getting released tomorrow is a little bit about that. It's about this foster care program in West Germany where they thought it was like a good idea to put children in the homes of pedophiles.
Jesus. Of course. But yeah.
Yeah, and liberals were like experimenting with various things because they thought Germans were inherently going to be fascist. But of course, if you're going to keep the fascists, yeah, it's just like, yeah.
Right,
so listen to that episode because I forgot what the connection. Oh, but if you had historical materialism and you realized, 18 million Wehrmacht soldiers didn't vaporize like throwing the Ring of Power in Mordor or something, you know what I mean?
They're living somewhere.
Yeah, like when you throw the Ring of Power into the fire of Mordor, all the soldiers of Mordor just vaporize. But liberals thought of that, I don't know. And that's not what happened. And then you get this Paul Mason's nonsense about fascism. It's just nuts. Yeah, and that's why we need historical materialism so we can carefully follow who went where, what do you mean by freedom?
Yeah. So we're gonna read the rest of that for next
that, and then we'll go back to Lenin. There's a lot of Lenin we need. Yeah,
Yeah,
lots
if
of
it's
it.
a long one, it probably will be a long one, knowing you and me. So,
What?
I said it's probably gonna be a long one, knowing you and me, because we'll just talk about.
Yeah, I was thinking we should do. I know we did a little bit of where to begin with Tina last year, but we should like be rigorous about it and start with where to begin, which is an all Russia newspaper, proletarian newspaper,
Yeah, yeah,
which is further expanded in what is to be done, which is again an all Russia. In the case of America, it's an all America proletarian newspaper. Somebody has to start it. Not me, because I'm already like have my hands full. So somebody else has to figure out how to do that.
yeah. I mean, there's ones outside the country that we know of. Oh, my cat just knocked everything down. There's ones outside the country that we know of, but there's really not anything good in.
Well, the problem is you need. Okay, so Jordan Sheridan does a pretty decent job, like covering the union issues and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But what Lenin says is that you need to knit the knitting of these struggles. So, oh, Amazon's like not letting these people pee in bottles because, or whatever Amazon does. And then it's like, oh, this is because this guy needs to deliver this cell phone, which was like mined by a child soldier in Congo, and it needs to be knitted together. And so, yeah.
yeah, they have.
And so that's why you need kind of like both like, so Stalin, for example, was the head of the Georgian paper, and you'll see he'll like take a lot of what Lenin wrote into his paper, but then he'll have some special stuff about the Caucasus and special Caucasus related issues. So that's kind of the idea, is that you have like a main frame and then like it distribute, but then the local part's also important, and it needs to be covered in a way that's useful for the proletariat.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But somebody has to do it, not
Yeah,
me.
I mean, we had them years and years and years ago. 100 years ago, we had them.
Yeah, but then what happened is that these 6 companies like bought them out and made them like and shut them down. Remember?
Yeah.
Every union in the used to have a newspaper and a radio station, and then these companies, greedy companies, would like buy them out. Yeah. They're like, oh, we're gonna dangle $1 million in front of you, and then they'd be like, okay, here's your newspaper.
Or like, oh, like that other, like one of the media channels, like a $20 million.
Yeah, and then they just shut it down, and then you get like everything owned by 6 people or whatever craziness it is. And a lot of times, all these news comes from one AP feed. So if that one AP feed is wrong, all the news around the world is wrong.
Yep. And I used to trust the AP feeds because they were just basic information, but they seem
approved propaganda.
Yeah, I'm talking about like I trusted them back in the 90s a little bit. Probably
I don't know.
I probably didn't pay attention as much, but
I don't know. There's like 3 feeds basically: Reuters, AP, and AFP.
Yeah.
We need a proletarian feed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Dump everything else and do everything.
Somebody is gonna have to do it. It was not me, and I don't see this like initiative from anyone, and it's like depressing. Like I can tell you what to do, but you guys, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to gather a team to do it.
We were trying to convince Tina, but
okay, you and Tina gather a team to do it.
Me and Tina have to gather a team.
Yeah.
All right, maybe
okay.
That. All right, I gotta go to bed though.
Me too. Смерти фашизму, слободу народу.
Good night, everyone.